The shadow of supreme laws of the chaos could be seen with the fate energy of the heavenly Tao, which was naturally Chuzan's doing. The ancient chaos gods were very strong. If he wanted them to follow the rules and spar with his disciples, he had to ensure that they did so voluntarily. He had to let them see hope. Only with hope would there be motivation. Chuzan was very familiar with this method. Back then, when the various races had set up their great formation in an attempt to enter the 9 zones, he had used this method to gain quite a bountiful harvest. Every time one of them obtained a bit of the heavenly Tao's fate energy, it would make the supreme laws a little clearer. This would tempt the ancient chaos gods into continuing this competition. To be able to see the supreme laws was equivalent to understanding the path to the chaos supreme realm. With the knowledge that the path had been blocked, this had become even more important. It was definitely a great opportunity and fortune. Mo Tu appeared. He was bald, had a kind face, and was surrounded by Buddhist light. He stood on the heavenly Tao arena and put his hands together. Amitabha, I'm the Arhat Mo Tu of the Buddhist sect. As soon as these words came out, the demon race experts' faces all turned ashen. The name Mo is almost always reserved for a member of the demon race. What did it mean for someone not of the demon race to be called Mo Tu? Did he call himself that to slay demons? Incidentally, Mo Shi had returned when the demon ancestor arrived. However, he was not arrogant, nor did he have any intention of asking the demon ancestor to take revenge on his behalf, as he understood his master would not be tied down by such things. Mo Tu's appearance made all the experts frown. What Tao path was this? When did such a Tao path exist in the 9 zones? It seemed to have the power to restrain demons and evil. Was this something that emerged when the divine world appeared? Buddhism. No one had ever heard of it. The ancient chaos gods fell into a state of deep thought. There was no Buddhism in the chaos, so it was obvious that it had emerged from the 9 zones, and was brand new. There was something special about all of these changes, and it was evident that Buddhism was one of those changes. Mo Tu's eyes flickered with golden light, and his kind face suddenly turned dignified. I used to be a mixed blood demon, but converted to Buddhism. I would like to seek the guidance of the demon ancestor. The moment he said that, Mo Shi's face turned ashen. A mixed blood rebel, he should be killed. The demon ancestor frowned as well. This person used to be a member of the demon race, but was now a Buddhist. It seemed that Buddhism was targeting the demon race. Buddhism, although this Tao path is extraordinary, someone of your level is not worthy of my attention, the demon ancestor said coldly. He did not condense an avatar to fight Mo Tu. Go and teach him a lesson, he said to Mo Shi. Yes, master. Mo Shi took a deep breath. He looked at Mo Tu with eyes full of anger. Rebel, mixed blood, an avatar that was as strong as Mo Tu headed toward the heavenly Tao arena. Mo Tu was a little disappointed that he would not face the demon ancestor. However, he could only blame himself for being too weak. He looked at Mo Shi. Which demon are you, benefactor? HMPH. Mo Shi snorted coldly. I'm the personal disciple of the demon ancestor, Mo Shi. Mo Tu's eyes lit up. Even though he would not get to fight the demon ancestor, fighting his personal disciple was an acceptable outcome. He shook his robe and a Buddhist saber appeared in his hand. His bald head was shrouded in a Buddhist light. Tisk, demon brat, why don't you lay down your butcher's knife and convert to Buddhism to wash away your sins? He suddenly shouted as he swung the saber. Just a moment ago, Mo Tu had a kind face, like a genial elder. Who would have thought that in the next moment, he would shout like a rowdy bandit? Mo Shi was stunned to see this, and was infuriated. Impudent, a vortex appeared, and his demonic power surged. Mo Tu did not hesitate and frantically attacked. The Buddhist light shone brightly as his chants filled the air. Chi-chi, the two forces came into contact. A sizzling sound was immediately heard, and Mo Shi's demonic power seemed to be restrained. Mo Shi's heart trembled. What was Buddhism? Why did it restrain demonic power? Boom! Mo Shi's body expanded and he threw a terrifying punch. However, Mo Tu did not show any signs of weakness, as his body expanded as well, emitting dazzling golden light. Arhat golden body. Boom! The two of them fought, and despite Mo Tu's lack of combat experience, he was not at a disadvantage due to the fact that Buddhist power restrained demonic power. The battle was intense. However, Mo Shi was ultimately a personal disciple of the demon ancestor. He was extremely powerful, and Mo Tu was still a little lacking. 682 more human geniuses. Even though Buddhism restrained demonic power to a certain extent, in the long run, Mo Shi's combat experience proved to be the deciding factor, and Mo Tu was defeated. Mo Shi was actually determined to kill Mo Tu right there and then, but was restrained by the heavenly Tao laws. This demon brat is indeed powerful. I'll go back and cultivate. I'll fight you again another day. Mo Tu left the fighting ring with a satisfied look. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Mo Shi's expression changed. After he defeated Mo Tu, a bolt of heavenly Tao fate energy entered his body, and he vaguely saw a vast demonic Tao principle. He was shocked. After leaving the arena, he returned to the demon ancestor's side. Master, after I obtained the heavenly Tao's fate energy, I saw an extremely powerful demonic Tao principle, he said using voice transmission. As for what demonic Tao principle it was, he did not know. The great Tao of the 9 zones naturally had the demon Tao principle, which was the template of the Tao paths of the demons in the 9 zones and in the chaos. It was actually no exaggeration to say that the template for all of the Tao paths of the chaos could be found in the 9 zones. It was because of this that the great Tao of the 9 zones was known as the number 1 great Tao, and why it was regarded as so special. The heavenly Tao had inherited the great Tao, so it was not strange for the demon Tao principle to exist within it. What made Mo Shi curious was that this vast demonic Tao principle. His master had founded the original demon Tao principle, but from what he saw, this demonic Tao principle far exceeded his master's demon Tao principle. This meant that this strange demonic Tao principle had nothing to do with his master. What was going on? The demon ancestor's heart jolted when he heard this. He asked Mo Shi what the demonic Tao principle looked like, and Mo Shi briefly described what he had seen. The demon ancestor was shocked. Was this demonic Tao principle a manifestation of a supreme law? He wanted to personally obtain heavenly Tao fate energy and take a look at this demonic Tao principle. Wang Luo walked up the heavenly Tao arena. This junior is Wang Luo. Which senior would like to give me some pointers? A human again. This was the second human peerless genius. He was also less than 100 years old, and had also surpassed the 100,000-mile mark. After Ding Yu, no one would underestimate these geniuses anymore. I'll go. Ancient God Star Shaker created another avatar and was about to head to the arena. He wanted to obtain even more heavenly Tao fate energy. Star Shaker, you've already had your turn, another ancient chaos god said. This person took the lead and condensed an avatar and sent it to the heavenly Tao arena. Ancient God Star Shaker's actions caused the experts to fall silent. It was obvious that he had gained something from the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, he would not have acted like that. This time, the opponent was Ancient God Flaming Sun. His hair was red like the sun, and his fiery body exuded a scorching aura. Wang Luo's expression was solemn, and flames began to rise from his body. He began to refine everything around him, and his scorching aura was not the slightest bit weaker than Ancient God Flaming Sun's. This caused Ancient God Flaming Sun to look at him in surprise. He could sense an aura similar to that of an ancient chaos god. Chaos smelting. Boom. A great sun appeared, and the flames surged, transforming into rolling waves of fire. Kill. Ancient God Flaming Sun did not waste any words and immediately attacked. Wang Luo raised his hand, and a huge cauldron appeared. Endless smelting power erupted, swallowing and smelting the flames. Boomo. The battle continued for a while, by which time Ancient God Flaming Sun had already transformed into a massive sun. Endless flames gushed out, turning into different attacks. It was not just flames, but also wind, smoke, lightning, and so on. He had mastered the power of his Tao path to an incredible degree. Ancient God Flaming Sun was born with the Tao path of the Flaming Sun, which belonged to the Fire Tao principle. This was someone who had transcended the world creator realm, and was one of the strongest ancient chaos gods when it came to pure strength. Wang Luo instantly turned into a huge furnace, seemingly wanting to smelt the great sun. The two sides were at a stalemate for a while. The spectators were all shocked by Wang Luo's strength. This genius was actually able to contend against Ancient God Flaming Sun in terms of the Fire Tao principle. In particular, that furnace technique was extremely powerful. It was as if it could smelt everything. Chu Zan watched the two sides fight. As expected, Ancient God Flaming Sun was not as careless as Ancient God Qing Hong, so Wang Luo was unable to obtain victory. The one who lost was Wang Luo. Chu Zan was not surprised. This would be the expected result for most of his disciples, and was the reason why the sparring competition had been organized anyway. That being said, Chu Zan was a little regretful. Since Wang Luo was unable to obtain victory, there was no system reward triggered. Still, Wang Luo would fight more than one battle over this period of time. After a few more battles, he would definitely be able to defeat an ancient chaos god. Chuzan did not have high expectations. It would be enough if his disciples could defeat an ancient chaos god avatar at the same level as they were. As long as they could do this, it would prove that pound for pound, they could match the very best experts in the chaos. Wang Luo might have lost, but he had also obtained many insights and learned many things from this battle. He believed that as long as he accumulated more experience, he would definitely be able to last longer the next time. After all, Wang Luo's combat strength was not his forte. After ancient god Flaming Sun defeated Wang Luo, he obtained a bolt of heavenly Tao fate energy, and also vaguely glimpsed a supreme law related to fire. It was vast and mighty. Even though it was just a quick glance, it was enough to shake his heart. He did not continue to stay on the heavenly Tao arena, and instead returned his avatar to his main body to examine the heavenly Tao fate energy. At this moment, ancient god Flaming Sun finally truly understood why ancient god Star Shaker wanted to fight again. He wanted to gather more heavenly Tao fate energy. Wang Luo returned to consolidate his gains this time. Xiao Liang could not wait to fight. With the spear in his hand, his fighting spirit was boiling. This junior is Xiao Liang. Which senior would like to give me some pointers? A human genius again. The expressions of the cultivators of the 9 zones all changed. The 3 ancestors were all astonished. Could it be that the current era belonged to the human race? One monstrous talent after another appeared. A figure appeared. His body was like a dead tree. His hair was like branches, swaying, and there were even flowers of various colors blooming at the ends of the branches. Ancient god Thousand Wood. He was the only tree in the chaos that had cultivated to the point of transcending the world creator realm. He was also one of the few tree-type ancient chaos gods. In an instant, the heavenly Tao arena was filled with boundless ancient trees. Each ancient tree contained a powerful force. Ancient god Thousand Wood maintained a distance from Xiao Liang, circling him. The branches danced in the air and continued to lash at him. Wind, fire, ice, snow, lightning, and smoke all appeared on the branches. Xiao Liang held his spear in his hand, his fighting spirit boiling as he unleashed attack after attack, destroying the oncoming branches as he searched for ancient god Thousand Wood's true body. However, all of the ancient trees were the same. Their auras and strength were the same. Other than the differing attacks, everything was the same. Ancient god Thousand Wood's offensive power was perhaps inferior to that of the other ancient chaos gods. However, in terms of defense and vitality, he was stronger than many of them. This was also the reason why he was able to stabilize the Ring of Light and successfully qualify to participate in this sparring competition. Xiao Liang was good at fighting, and was equal to Ding Yu in this aspect. At this moment, his battle intent was boiling. In the face of adversity, his combat strength was getting stronger and stronger. Furthermore, there were signs of him breaking through his limits. The human race actually produced such a peerless fighting genius. The immortal ancestor was full of praise. It was as if he was born to fight. Seeing Xiao Liang's extraordinary performance in the battle, he was reminded of the demon ancestor when he was young. That person was also extremely combative and overbearing. It was the same back then, constantly killing and rising up in adversity. Other than the experts of their generation, no one else knew that the demon ancestor had become a demon by killing many of the innate lifeforms and myriad races of the 9 zones. In the end, he embarked on the path of rebelling against the rulers of the 9 zones as well. Ancient god Thousand Wood was inwardly shocked. This human brat seemed to be born for battle. The timing was impeccable, and he grew at an astonishingly fast rate in battle. Any flaws he revealed in combat would be fixed within moments. This was one of the reasons why ancient god Thousand Wood had yet to win. Boom! Thousands of trees continued to attack Xiao Liang, but his long spear was like a roaring dragon that bombarded the trees repeatedly. His body was shaking, his forehead was covered in sweat. The pressure was too great. The giant trees were like mountains that kept crashing down upon him, each with their own varying attacks. In the end, Xiao Liang lost. After defeating Xiao Liang, ancient god Thousand Wood's heart trembled. The heavenly Tao's fate energy was actually so special. He needed to accumulate more. As such, he did not leave the heavenly Tao arena. Which heavenly Tao genius would like to ask for guidance? After learning how extraordinary the heavenly Tao's fate energy was, he became more polite to the geniuses of the heavenly Tao. Qin Ying walked out, holding a large halberd. Qin looked at Qin Ying with some doubt. This woman's beauty was unparalleled, and she had the air of an overlord. She was clearly a girl, but why did she also seem like a man? Moreover, why did he have a feeling that this was his descendant? The bloodline did not seem to come from him, but this person's divine soul seemed to be related to him. It was really strange. He felt that there was something wrong with Qin Ying. She was indeed a woman, yet it seemed a little out of place. It was as if he had once been a man, but had later become a woman. Qin Ying's strength was inferior to Xiao Liang's. As such, ancient god Thousand Wood Avatar's cultivation level was actually higher than his. As Qin Ying walked out, ancient god Thousand Wood did not even need to lower his own cultivation. The heavenly Tao laws descended and directly suppressed his cultivation level. After all, it was just an avatar, so it was easy to do so. Qin Ying held the halberd and went up onto the arena. The spectators looked at Qin Ying with suspicion. They all felt that there was something unusual about this woman. Chu narrowed his eyes and looked at her. Why did he feel that this woman seemed to be a descendant of Luo? However, something was not quite right. It was as if her divine soul did not match her bloodline. It was really strange. This woman's condition is a little special, the immortal ancestor exclaimed in surprise. Why do I feel that she was originally a man? The celestial ancestor asked in surprise. Qin Ying took a deep breath and stood proudly on the arena with his halberd pointed horizontally in front of him. He was in a dilemma. He really wanted to recover his male body. However, he had a premonition that if he were to abandon this body, his Tao heart would encounter some problems. It was because of this that he did not return to his male form, and continued cultivating in this state. This was the disadvantage of reincarnation before the emergence of the reincarnation cycle. Furthermore, after being a woman for more than 10 years until he awakened and recovered, some of the traits and behaviors of a woman had already been imprinted on him. Ancient God Thousand Wood looked at him in confusion. Why does it feel that you're not like an ordinary woman? Make your move. Qin Ying was too lazy to elaborate. There was no way that he was going to tell them that he used to be a man, but had turned into a woman after some problems with his reincarnation. The fewer people who knew about this matter, the better. His pride and dignity were on the line. He swung his halberd fiercely. Qin Ying's attack did not match her female identity. With a large halberd in his hand, he was extremely domineering and powerful. He did not look like a peerless beauty, but more like a peerless fierce man. It had similarities with Qin's own attack techniques, incomparably mighty and domineering. Qin was almost certain that this person was his descendant. However, for some unknown reason, his bloodline had changed, while his divine soul had not changed. Could it be reincarnation? That did not seem right. If it was reincarnation, it should not have been like this. Qin had some guesses, but in the meantime, ancient god Thousand Wood had defeated Qin Ying. Another bolt of heavenly Tao fate energy entered his body. In that instant, he vaguely sensed the supreme law once again. Qin Ying left the heavenly Tao arena. Ruoxian came, and lost, and then another Buddhist Daoyuan realm cultivator also came and lost. Thousand Wood, it's time for you to stand down, an ancient chaos god said in a low voice. It was now obvious to everyone that there was something special about the heavenly Tao's fate energy. Otherwise, ancient god Thousand would not have kept accepting challenges repeatedly like this. Ancient god Qing Hong was filled with regret. He had been too careless. He was the first to accept the challenge, but he was also the first ancient chaos god to be defeated. Instead of obtaining the heavenly Tao's fate energy, he had lost a portion of his own fate energy and his avatar. Even though ancient god Thousand wanted to continue, he knew that it was time for him to back out. His avatar left the heavenly Tao arena and returned to his true body's side. Ancient god Thousand began to examine the avatar and the heavenly Tao fate energy it contained. He was in no hurry to merge his clone back into his true body. Then, Kingslayer walked up onto the heavenly Tao arena. As soon as he appeared, everyone's attention turned to him. I am Kingslayer. Who can give me some pointers? Another human. This person could not be compared to the monstrous Ding Yu and Wang Luo, but even if he was a little older, he was definitely a genius in his own right, especially given the fact that he was an extreme Tao cultivator. Chu glanced at him. He and the other humans could tell that Kingslayer was an extreme Tao cultivator, but the other experts from the 9 zones could not. After all, the extreme Tao was created by Ji, and although they had seen Ji's strength, the extreme Tao Ji cultivated was different from the extreme Tao that Kingslayer cultivated. Furthermore, Ji's extreme Tao had reached an extremely high level, and was thus more reserved and concealed in comparison to Kingslayer's almost blatant killing intent. It was because of this that those who were not familiar with the extreme Tao remained unaware of this. As for the ancient chaos gods, they had never seen an extreme Tao cultivator before. After all, to them, Ji was still considered weak. A ring of light solidified and an avatar of an ancient chaos god appeared. As the avatar appeared, a wave of cold air instantly filled the chaos. There was even snow-cold white sleet that appeared as the avatar descended. Ancient god violent blizzard. There seemed to be snowflakes surrounding the avatar's body, but it was actually a manifestation of the power of his Tao path. Each snowflake contained terrifying icy power. Ancient god violent blizzard then descended upon the heavenly Tao arena. The temperature within the heavenly Tao arena dropped instantly, which caused Kingslayer to shiver. He activated the power of his extreme Tao to resist the cold, as blood-red killing intent continued to condense. He held his saber aloft. Coupled with his messy hair, beard, and tattered clothes, he looked like a psychopath killer. The Tao of Slaughter. Ancient god violent blizzard raised an eyebrow. Those who cultivated the Tao of Slaughter did not end up well. After all, it was easy to suffer a cultivation deviation while cultivating this. Most would try to increase their strength by killing living beings. Those who were slightly smarter would go around challenging and killing the strong, and not killing the weak. Furthermore, to most cultivators, those who cultivated the Tao of Slaughter were considered dangerous and unhinged. Therefore, to prevent future troubles, many people would hunt down such cultivators before they could grow too strong. It was precisely because of this that those who cultivated the Tao of Slaughter were rare. In fact, currently, there was not a single one of them among the ranks of those who had transcended the World Creator realm, or even reached the World Creator realm. Usually, when a cultivator of the Tao of Slaughter reached a bottleneck and was unable to break through for a long time, they would seek battles to gain insights and seek a breakthrough. Among the ancient chaos gods, there was ancient Slaughter God, who was the progenitor of the Tao of Slaughter. In order to become stronger, this person had killed more than one ancient chaos god. However, when he reached the middle stages of the World Creator realm, he was surrounded and killed by the other ancient chaos gods in order to prevent him from killing them in the future. For their own safety and for the sake of the chaos, they had to get rid of him. When ancient god Violent Blizzard saw that Kingslayer cultivated the Tao of Slaughter, he felt that this fellow would not be able to go far. However, why did his Tao of Slaughter feel so special? Nothing good comes out of cultivating the Tao of Slaughter. Young man, listen to my advice and cultivate something else. Ancient god Violent Blizzard spoke with the tone of an old senior. Kingslayer quickly replied, my Tao of Slaughter is different from others. They are lunatics who kill for the sake of killing. They are bloodthirsty and will naturally not have a good ending. My Tao of Slaughter is to kill my enemies. I only kill my enemies, and not for the sake of killing. How can you compare me to those useless people who kill indiscriminately? Thanks to my master, I have long since discarded such a low-level mentality. What I cultivate is the supreme Tao of Slaughter. What? Quote, ancient god Violent Blizzard was stunned. Was there anyone who cultivated the Tao of Slaughter who did not like to kill? Would a Tao of Slaughter that was not bloodthirsty still be the Tao of Slaughter? However, he suddenly understood why this person's Tao of Slaughter felt so special. However, judging from how Kingslayer looked, he still looked like a psychopath killer. Are you even truly cultivating the Tao of Slaughter? I feel that you haven't even figured out what the Tao of Slaughter is, so the improvement of your strength is limited. Ancient god Violent Blizzard shook his head. You know nothing. Kingslayer did not hold back at all. The extreme Tao of Slaughter is to only kill when killing an enemy. It's not to kill for the sake of killing, nor to kill randomly. My Tao path is very clear. I don't need your guidance. You, ancient god Violent Blizzard was furious. He had given him some kind advice, but not only did this fellow not appreciate it, he even looked down on him. As expected, those who cultivated the Tao of Slaughter were not normal people. Since that's the case, then let me see how powerful your Tao of Slaughter is, ancient god Violent Blizzard coldly said. Snowflakes began to gather around him, gradually forming a snowstorm. Every snowflake was the manifestation of the power of his Tao path. An extremely cold aura began to spread across the arena. Kingslayer simply charged forward. His killing intent was like an endless flood, and actually scattered the snowstorm. The blood-red saber beams split the snowflakes apart. What terrifying killing intent! Ancient god Violent Blizzard's heart trembled. This kid's Tao of Slaughter has already been cultivated to an extraordinary level. Moreover, his killing intent seemed to have achieved a very special state, which is why it is so powerful. Die! Ancient god Violent Blizzard waved his hand, and the snowflakes transformed into cold blades that poured down like rain toward Kingslayer. All of the experts watching the battle were attracted by Kingslayer's killing intent. Such condensed killing intent was extremely rare, and should have been impossible to create at Kingslayer's level. Even ancient slaughter god had not reached this level in terms of killing intent. The experts realized that his killing intent was different from the Tao of slaughter they knew about. It seemed to be another thing altogether. Furthermore, this strange extreme state he was in allowed his strength to almost double. Kingslayer cultivated the Tao of slaughter, but walked another path, which used the Tao of slaughter as a medium. Was this a brand new path? It was extraordinary. Ji looked at Kingslayer and nodded inwardly. This person's extreme Tao was good. Chu sighed. His Tao of slaughter is only the vessel for his extreme Tao, right? Chu did not know much about extreme Tao. In the past, Ji had gone on a killing spree in the 9 zones. In the end, he had not been able to save Ji as he had been held back by the experts of various races. Fortunately, he had faked his death and escaped. It was also because they had little contact back then. Moreover, the extreme Tao at that time was also in its early stages. Therefore, Chu only had a general understanding of the extreme Tao. He has talent in terms of the Tao of slaughter. That's why he's using the Tao of slaughter as the external manifestation of his extreme Tao. If he can break away from the restraints of the Tao of slaughter, he will have comprehended the second level of the extreme Tao. Finally, when the extreme Tao's power becomes completely concealed, he will have reached the third level of the extreme Tao, Ji said. Chu looked at him. Ji was obviously at the third level. At this moment, his strength was completely concealed. If he did not reveal his strength, no one would know how strong he was. No one could even tell what his cultivation level was. Then again, it did not seem like he had reached the world creator realm. The extreme Tao cannot create a world. Chu could not help but ask. Without creating a world, how could one continue extending their Tao path? How could they stabilize the foundation of their Tao path? The extreme Tao does not require the creation of a world. Ji nodded and continued, one has to reach the second level of the Tao path before the limits of one's Tao path, body and divine soul are transcended. Once that happens, there is no need to create a world. Chu nodded in understanding. The extreme Tao was a unique path, after all. If Ji had been born in the era of the 3 ancestors, he would be as strong, if not stronger. Chu sighed inwardly. The human race had risen up too late. Moreover, they had always been suppressed, which was why they had fallen behind the other races. That being said, although the human race has missed the golden period of the 9 zones, they had grasped the golden period of the divine world, and were the overlord race of that world. Given time, the human race would definitely surpass the other races. Kingslayer's killing intent was very strong and had condensed into a physical form. Every strike was filled with extreme power. Even so, he was still not ancient god Violent Blizzard's match. If he was truly on the same level as me, I might not be able to deal with him so easily, ancient god Violent Blizzard thought to himself. He would definitely be severely injured. His current avatar seemed to be at the same level as Kingslayer, but it was purely in terms of cultivation level. In terms of mastery of the power of his Tao path, comprehension, combat experience, and techniques, he far surpassed Kingslayer. Kingslayer was soon defeated, which was not surprising at all. With the gains and insights from this battle, he was confident that, given enough time and a few more battles, he would be able to defeat ancient god Violent Blizzard. When the bolt of the heavenly Tao's fate energy entered ancient god Violent Blizzard's body, his expression changed slightly. He finally understood the uniqueness of the heavenly Tao's fate energy and why ancient god Thousand Wood had continued to fight. However, he chose not to stay in the arena. Shang Xing walked out onto the arena. This junior is Shang Xing. Which senior would like to give me some pointers? Another human genius. The cultivators of the 9 zones all had unsightly expressions. The stronger the human race was, the more geniuses there would be. This made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Would the human race not hold grudges? Chu and the others were not dead yet, so it was easy for them to pass on the grudges the human race had experienced through the eras to the younger generation. An ancient chaos god walked out. His body was like a ball of fire, but it was shining. Ancient god Flamelight, he was also an ancient chaos god that cultivated the fire Tao principle. Incidentally, Shang Xing did too. It was a contest of fire. Boom, Shang Xing's entire body had turned into a ball of blazing fire. The flames surged and changed. The battle between fire and fire was extremely intense and scorching. All kinds of fire combat techniques emerged one after another. Ancient god Flamelight waved his hand, sending out one attack after another. Unlike Shang-Xing, his flames were all dazzling, like balls of light. After several exchanges, Shang-Xing was defeated. Next was Qianming, who was also defeated. After defeating these two, ancient god Flamelight's avatar left the arena. The next to enter the arena was Soaring Flood Dragon. He was a member of the Azure Flood Dragon tribe, and at the same time, he also cultivated the Monster Tao principle. His status in the monster world was second only to Hu Tianya. He was here to challenge the dragon ancestor. Long Ao squinted his eyes and immediately descended with an avatar. You're quite ambitious. You dare to challenge your bloodline's ancestor with such little strength. The corners of Soaring Flood Dragon's mouth twitched. Facing Long Ao, he felt the pressure of a mountain weigh down upon him. Furthermore, there was the suppression from his bloodline. He only possessed the dragon bloodline, but had yet to transform into a dragon. Therefore, the bloodline suppression was intense. His expression changed and he let out a growl as he activated the Monster Tao principle to offset the bloodline suppression. Long Ao looked at him in surprise. He then nodded his head in satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. You have a bright future ahead of you. As expected of a bloodline descendant. As a shrewd dragon, Long Ao noticed that Soaring Flood Dragon was not ordinary. The Tao principle he cultivated was unique, and could actually offset the bloodline suppression. Therefore, he was worth nurturing. Although Soaring Flood Dragon's dragon bloodline was a little thin, it was still there. Therefore, Long Ao could still be called his ancestor. Moreover, the heavenly Tao was extraordinary, so having a descendant within it was very beneficial to Long Ao. Long Ao's eyes flickered as he carefully observed the aura around Soaring Flood Dragon. The aura of the Monster Tao principle. It was similar to the monster ancestor. Did this mean that in the divine world, or in other words, in the heavenly Tao, there was a separate Monster Tao principle? After the monster ancestor disappeared, the dragons no longer considered themselves monsters, but still oversaw the monster race. If Soaring Flood Dragon really became the leader of the monster race, then the dragons would then be able to rule over the monster race. Even if they did not rule, they would still possess significant authority and influence within the monster race. The heavenly Tao's monster race was different from the monster race from the era of the monster ancestor, after all. The only pity was that Soaring Floor Dragon was not a pure dragon. Still, that was not an issue with him around. As a shrewd dragon, he had a unique vision. The moment he discovered that Huang Long was extraordinary and extremely powerful, he immediately acknowledged him as his big brother. From this, one could see that Long Ao was a shameless dragon. Soaring Flood Dragon did not want to acknowledge this ancestor. After all, his dragon bloodline was thin. If he acknowledged the dragon ancestor, would he not become a pawn of the dragons? How could that be allowed? He wanted to break away from his bloodline and become one of the true overlords of the monster race. Pa Pi Da J Nui 1, SOM. Therefore, he came out to challenge the dragon ancestor. This was a huge opportunity. Facing the suppression of the bloodline, he had to break through the restraints. Soaring Flood Dragon roared and transformed into an azure flood dragon, breathing out swaths of white mist accompanied by lightning. Not bad at all. The more Long Ao looked at him, the more satisfied he was. As for his thin bloodline and not being a pure dragon, what did it matter? I will teach you the dragon's might technique today. As Long Ao spoke, he transformed into a golden dragon. His dragon's might was so vast that it suppressed Soaring Flood Dragon to the point that it was difficult to breathe. This shocked Soaring Flood Dragon greatly. Dragon's might was so powerful. Roar! Soaring Flood Dragon roared, resisting the dragon's might and launching an attack. In an instant, monstrous energy surged and transformed into the might of an unparalleled great monster. The monster ancestor frowned. Why was there another Monster Tao principle? Furthermore, it was very unique, and even felt purer than the Monster Tao principle that he had created. This was unusual. After all, the monster ancestor was the one who had enlightened the demonic beasts of the 9 zones and transformed them into monsters. It was also because of this that there were many types of monsters, with equally as many cultivation techniques. However, all of those paths led to the same destination. They all belonged to the Monster Tao principle that he had created. Despite this, Soaring Flood Dragon's Monster Tao principle did not conform to this. This was strange. Why was it like this? Could it be that there was a second monster ancestor like him in the divine world? Long Ao and Soaring Flood Dragon fought for a while, but the latter was continuously suppressed by Long Ao's attacks. Then, something completely unexpected happened. Today, I'll sacrifice myself to fulfill your wish. Long Ao roared, and his avatar instantly dissipated. Then, a wisp of origin essence appeared. The moment the wisp of origin essence appeared, Soaring Flood Dragon immediately had a bad feeling, and tried to flee the Heavenly Tao arena. However, it was already too late. Long Ao's fading voice rang out. Soaring Flood Dragon, no, from today onward, you are Long Tang, the son of Long Ao. This origin essence will help you to transform into a dragon and you will become my son. You will become one of the ancestors of the dragons. This wisp of my consciousness is about to dissipate. But before that I'll use this wisp of origin essence to help you transform into a dragon. No, Soaring Flood Dragon roared. He wanted to refuse. He did not want to become a dragon. He had cultivated the Monster Tao principle in order to get rid of his dragon bloodline. Was it all going to be for naught? He was even going to become a dragon ancestor. His refusal was useless. Long Ao would not let him off. That wisp of origin essence fused itself into Soaring Flood Dragon's body. The strength gap between the two was too great, so there was no way the latter could resist Long Ao. The moment the origin essence entered his body, Soaring Flood Dragon transformed. He was no longer a flood dragon, but a true dragon. What was even more unacceptable to Soaring Flood Dragon was that he had turned into a multicolored dragon. Green, black, and gold, a tri-colored dragon. His heart was crumbling. Long Ao's actions left the experts dumbfounded. Then, they cursed inwardly. This dragon ancestor was really shameless. He had done all this to obtain a son within the Heavenly Tao. Everyone could tell that Soaring Flood Dragon did not want to transform into a dragon. This fact was clearly not lost on Long Ao. However, he still went through with it anyway, and even sacrificed a wisp of his origin essence, which was a serious price to pay. Because of this, Soaring Flood Dragon could not bring himself to hate Long Ao. After all, that wisp of origin essence was a great opportunity for him. In the chaos, Long Ao had a look of satisfaction and relief on his face. He looked at Soaring Flood Dragon, who was still standing on the Heavenly Tao arena, and said, "My son, Long Tang, has the bearing of a peerless expert." All of the experts rolled their eyes. He was so FC King shameless. Even Huang Long glanced at him. This little brother of his made him feel speechless. Long Tang no longer remained in his true form, and reverted to his human form and left the arena. He felt like crying. What AFC King B** starred. The dragon ancestor was so shameless. What made him even more uncomfortable was that after transforming into a dragon, he had actually become a tricolor dragon. It was really ugly. Before this, if you had asked him if he had ever made a decision he had regretted in his life, he would have answered no. However, he had made one today. He regretted coming out to challenge the dragon ancestor. Chu Zan looked at Long Ao and smiled. This dragon ancestor was interesting. He was very thoughtful, thick-skinned and shameless. This could be seen from the fact that he had directly acknowledged Huang Long as his big brother. This time, he had transformed Long Tang into a dragon and even made him his direct descendant. As a result, Long Tang's status among the dragons was instantly elevated. He had become one of the second-generation dragon ancestors, which was probably done to make him feel better and accept the reality of this whole situation. Furthermore, he had also received a wisp of Long Ao's origin essence, which would increase his strength and potential. It could be considered a great opportunity. It also did not affect his cultivation of the Monster Tao principle. Therefore, there was not much to be dissatisfied about. If that was all, Chu Zan would not have thought so highly of Long Ao. When the wisp of origin essence transformed Long Tang, Long Ao's wisp of consciousness had directly dissipated and integrated into the Heavenly Tao. Along with that intent, Long Ao's fate energy was also integrated into the Heavenly Tao. He had done this in exchange for the Heavenly Tao not interfering with his actions. In reality, he was making a deal with the person behind the Heavenly Tao. To the Heavenly Tao, this was a pretty good source of nourishment. This dragon ancestor was very interesting, smart and quick-witted. Chu Zan felt optimistic about Long Ao, and felt that he had the potential to reach the Chaos Supreme Realm in the future. Among the Daoyuan realm cultivators of the divine world, only Ding Yu had won, and that was only due to the other party underestimating him. If they fought again, the outcome would almost certainly be reversed. The strength of Chu Zan's disciples had increased too quickly, and they lacked combat experience, as well as mastery of the power of their Tao paths. In comparison to the avatars of the ancient chaos gods, they were on completely different levels. Honestly, if Ding Yu and the other disciples could defeat an avatar of an ancient chaos god in a straight-up fight, they would be considered invincible within their realm. After all, these ancient chaos gods represented the strongest experts in the chaos below the chaos supreme realm. With the fate energy of the heavenly Tao, Chuzan kept these experts hooked. He believed that as long as Ding Yu and the others continued to fight, they would be able to beat these avatars sooner or later, which would trigger the system's rewards and improve his strength. Chuzan was full of anticipation. He also decided that if his disciples were unable to defeat the avatars by then, he would teach them more Tao Path secret techniques. As for Chaos Supreme techniques, Ding Yu and the others were too weak to cultivate them, and they would barely be able to unleash any of the techniques' power. However, Chuzan hoped that his disciples could create their own Tao Path secret techniques through these sparring sessions, which would qualify them to be proper experts. After Long Tang, it was Hu Tianya's turn. He had already transformed into his divine white tiger form. In the previous challenges, other than Ding Yu, the other disciples did not use the Tao Path secret techniques that he had taught them. Hu Tianya's strength was on par with Ding Yu and Xiao Liang, as he also possessed the might of a divine beast. The Tao Path secret technique he cultivated was the Immortal slaughter form. If he used it, it would not be easy for his opponent to defeat him. Of course, the first battle was to accumulate combat experience, and it was unlikely that he would use the Tao Path secret technique now. The second battle would be where he truly tested the limits of his strength. Chuzan was also looking forward to Heiyu's appearance. She was the strongest of his disciples. Furthermore, her innate divine soul was formed from the embryonic form of the supreme laws, which made her unique. Perhaps she might be able to emerge victorious in her first battle. Chu Yi was still young, and his mental state was that of a teenager. He was currently learning and cultivating in the new world, tempering his mental state, so Chuzan did not allow him to participate in the sparring competition. Moreover, Chu Yi was the reborn Lord of Chaos, and no ordinary genius. He would not lose to an avatar of an ancient chaos god of the same level. The moment Hu Tianya appeared, the experts and ancestors from the 9 zones were stunned. Divine White Tiger. It was one of the 4 divine beasts in the world, an existence with unparalleled strength and ferocity. Could it be that the divine white tiger had already fallen and was reborn in the 9 zones? He's not the same person, Long Ao said. Perhaps the 4 divine beasts were reborn in the divine world. I'll go, the monster ancestor said with a smile. Back then, he had dealt with the 4 divine beasts, and even fought the divine white tiger a few times. Hu Tianya looked at the monster ancestor with a puzzled look in his eyes. The monster ancestor actually possessed the aura of the monster race's Tao principle. Moreover, there was some fate energy of the world around, which meant that his origins were probably from the 9 zones as well. One of the immortals, celestials, or demons. No matter how he looked at it, this person did not seem like an expert from one of those races. Who are you? The monster ancestor smiled and said, I am the monster ancestor. Hu Tianya was startled, but then he said thoughtfully, an ancient expert from the 9 zones, monster race. You can say that. In terms of age, I'm even older than the immortal, celestial, and demon ancestors. The monster ancestor stared at Hu Tianya for a long time. You're the divine white tiger. One of the 4 divine beasts of the current era. Hu Tianya shook his head. I'm not one of the 4 divine beasts. I'm the lord of the monster world. My name is Hu Tianya. The lord of the monster world. The monster ancestor was stunned. It was no wonder he sensed that Hu Tianya possessed the unique fate energy of the monster race. However, what was the monster world? The layout of the divine world was different from the 9 zones. Which region does the monster world reside in? The former monster zone. The monster ancestor mistakenly thought that the monster world was the monster race's territory within the 9 zones, and they had just renamed it. He had no idea that the monster world was actually an independent world that existed with the heavenly Tao, but was still connected to the divine world. It's not there. The monster world is the monster world. The monster world has a great Tao that belongs solely to the monster race. Hu Tianya's body trembled, and he emitted a boundless killing intent. The world is different now. In addition to the 3 realms, there are also the monster world and the Buddhist world. The monster ancestor was shocked. Why did the 9 zones suddenly undergo such a drastic change? The appearance of the heavenly Tao was indeed unusual, and seemed to coincide with some changes in the chaos. Come, let me experience your strength, monster ancestor. Hu Tianya raised his tiger claws and gathered his strength. All right, let's see how capable you are, lord of the monster world. Monstrous power surged around the monster ancestor's body. Behind him, there was an illusory image of thousands of roaring monsters, as the power of his Tao path manifested itself. The roars directly attacked Hu Tianya's divine soul, trying to annihilate it. Hu Tianya roared, and his body instantly expanded. The might of the divine beast manifested itself, suppressing the roars of the illusory monsters. Boom! The two sides exchanged blows. Hu Tianya used his true body to fight, swinging his tiger claws in a domineering fashion. In front of the monster ancestor, more illusory images of all kinds of great monsters were condensed. The Tao paths that each of those monsters displayed were different. Shockwaves filled the heavenly Tao arena, and they clashed again and again. Hu Tianya roared as he suddenly burst forth with power. A river of thousands of monsters appeared behind him that swarmed and joined in the battle. All of the experts were watching in silence. This battle could be considered a battle between the Lord of the Monster race in the present and the Lord of the Monster race in the past. Although Hu Tianya was unable to defeat the monster ancestor, this was within their expectations. However, his strength still surprised them as he fought viciously blow for blow with the monster ancestor. After a long battle, Hu Tianya was defeated. He did not stay any longer and immediately left the arena to digest what he had gained from the battle. A cold gleam flashed across the monster ancestor's eyes after he obtained the bolt of the heavenly Tao's fate energy. He was different from the others. After all, his strength was on par with the three ancient chaos gods who were on the verge of reaching the chaos supreme realm. The moment the bolt of the heavenly Tao's fate energy entered his body, he seemed to see a majestic figure waving its hand to cut off the path to the chaos supreme realm. Qin had been telling the truth. The path was truly blocked intentionally. At this moment, the monster ancestor's heart was filled with hatred. For countless years, he had ignored the monsters he created because he wanted to reach the chaos supreme realm. However, he had now confirmed that the path to his ascension was purposefully blocked by someone. His heart was filled with endless hatred, but he also felt a sense of powerlessness. Unless they killed that person, they would never be able to break through. However, how would they kill a Chaos Supreme Realm expert? The strength gap between them was virtually insurmountable. Even if he joined forces with Giant Chaos God and the other two, they would still merely be ants in the eyes of the other party. They could be destroyed with a wave of his hand. Moreover, they could not even find their enemy, the Heavenly Tao. If he wanted to break through, perhaps the Heavenly Tao was the only possibility. The monster ancestor left the Heavenly Tao arena. He glanced at Giant Chaos God, Ancient God Void Destruction and Ancient God Void Slash. At present, they were the four experts on the verge of breaking through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. In fact, had it not been for the blocked path, they would have already broken through. They had to work together to deal with this issue. He immediately sent a voice transmission to the three of them and told them about what he had seen when he obtained the bolt of the Heavenly Tao's fate energy. When the three ancient chaos gods heard what he had to say, their gazes turned cold. They were furious. This was a grudge that could not be forgiven. At the same time, they felt a deep sense of powerlessness. So what if they knew? As long as they were unable to break through, they would never be able to take revenge. Furthermore, they could not reveal the fact that they knew that the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm was blocked. Otherwise, they would probably be silenced by the culprit. Chu Zan looked at the four of them. At this moment, their hearts were probably filled with endless anger, right? He raised his head and looked at the supreme laws of the chaos. He could vaguely sense some fluctuations within that special space. It seemed that their conflict or competition was ongoing. Chu Zan believed that once they were done, a Chaos Supreme Realm expert would descend. The Heavenly Tao was a variable, so they would definitely be attracted. If they knew that a new Chaos Supreme Realm expert had emerged, they might even join forces to deal with him. Chu Zan had the confidence to deal with one or two Chaos Supreme Realm experts, but he was not sure how many of them there were. If the number exceeded his expectations, he was not 100% confident that he could win. Therefore, he needed to improve his strength as much as possible. Also, he had to prepare a few backup plans and allies. Once the path was cleared, those four experts would be able to immediately break through to Chaos Supreme Realm, and would be able to help him to stall for some time. After the four of them broke through, they would naturally be on his side. Even though they would be weaker than the other side, they would still be Chaos Supreme Realm experts, and they would still be able to help him to hold down the fort until he was ready. This was Chu Zan's plan for the worst situation. Of course, he was looking forward to the 100-year milestone reward, which would bring him more confidence. He believed that once he had that reward, he would be able to face all of the Chaos Supreme Realm experts. After Hu Tianya's defeat, Chu Pingfan stepped up. He was still holding the wooden saber, but it was no longer what it used to be. It was now an extreme Dao saber. Furthermore, after Chu Pingfan's transformation, the extreme Dao that he cultivated was no longer limited to the extreme Dao of the saber. It was similar to Ji. As Chu Pingfan had obtained the potential to become an ancient chaos god, he possessed a special fate energy. He was simultaneously both an extreme Dao cultivator, and not an extreme Dao cultivator. The moment Chu Pingfan appeared, Ji was momentarily stunned. Extreme Dao. Other people might not have sensed it, but as the founder of the extreme Dao, how could he not notice this? His brows furrowed slightly. Chu Pingfan's extreme Dao was not ordinary, and was different from his own. Another founder of the extreme Dao. He thought silently. He was the founder of extreme Dao in the 9 Zones era. Could this person be the founder of the extreme Dao in the Divine Worlds era? The rest of the experts looked at Chu Pingfan with furrowed brows. He felt a little unusual. In particular, the ancient chaos gods could vaguely sense a fate energy that was similar to their own within Chu Pingfan. However, there was a difference too, which was likely due to the heavenly Dao in the divine world. This time, it was giant chaos god who descended with his avatar. He wanted to confirm what the monster ancestor had told him. Giant chaos god's body was like a huge mountain. After landing on the heavenly Dao arena, he did not spare any pleasantries and simply started the fight. He wanted to end the battle quickly to obtain the heavenly Dao's fate energy for confirmation. Boom! He threw a punch, and his mountain-like fist descended upon Chu Pingfan. Chu Pingfan looked like a tiny ant in front of his gigantic body. A saber beam was unleashed. Boom! The power of his extreme Dao erupted. Chu Pingfan had actually managed to block the punch. Giant Chaos God could not help but take a few more glances at Chu Pingfan after that. His strength far surpassed ancient god Qing Hong's. He was confident that this avatar of his could fight against 2 of the latter's avatars. Boom! Another punch was thrown. Chu Pingfan's face was calm as he faced the mountain-like fist. He did not back off in the slightest. His entire being entered an extreme state as he swung his saber. There was no cold saber beam, nor was there any powerful eruption of strength this time, but clang! He blocked the fist with his saber. Bang! Bang! Chu Pingfan's body turned into a beam of light as he took the opportunity to leap up, charging straight for Giant Chaos God's face. He swung his saber again, surprising Giant Chaos God. What a special power! This kid had actually condensed the power of his Dao path to the extreme. He struck out with his palm to block the saber, and then attacked again. Chu Pingfan dodged nimbly. Young human, you're quite interesting, Giant Chaos God said. Then, his body seemed to vibrate intensely, and an invisible ripple swept out like rolling waves. Chu Pingfan was sent flying backward. Boom! Giant Chaos God struck out with his palm again, pressing down like a mountain on Chu Pingfan. Lightning flashed within his palm. Chu Pingfan was no match for the Giant Chaos God, and in the end, he could not block this palm strike and was defeated. After defeating Chu Pingfan, a bolt of the heavenly Dao's fate energy entered Giant Chaos God's body, and an image emerged in his consciousness. He could vaguely see the 9 supreme laws that encompassed the entire chaos. An imposing figure could be vaguely seen pressing his palm upon a supreme law, blocking the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm. The image disappeared. Giant Chaos God was enraged. How long had he been stuck at this stage? It was no wonder that he was unable to break through despite being able to connect to the supreme laws. It turned out that someone had blocked the path to his breakthrough, slamming the door shut. Unforgivable. Giant Chaos God's avatar then returned, and he sent a voice transmission to Ancient God Void Destruction and Ancient God Void / to confirm the monster ancestor's words. The 4 of them began to discuss how they could overcome the blocked path and break through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. Their only hope lay in the heavenly Dao. It was undoubtedly a variable in the chaos, but also an opportunity. This was their best starting point. Since the heavenly Dao is a variable that will change the chaos, it will definitely attract the attention of the Chaos Supreme Realm experts, the monster ancestor said. The other 3 felt a chill in their hearts. What he said made sense. How could the Chaos Supreme experts not have noticed the heavenly Dao? Why had they not appeared yet? Moreover, the first time a Chaos Supreme expert had made a move was within this region as well, killing Qin. As a result, Qin became a divine being of the heavenly Dao. It was the heavenly Dao that had informed them that the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm was blocked. Did this mean that the Heavenly Tao was aware that it was facing a threat from the Chaos Supreme Realm experts, and wanted their help to deal with this situation? Furthermore, why did the Heavenly Tao appear? Was there anything unusual behind all of this? The four of them discussed this matter at length. They had all lived for a long time and were the strongest experts below the Chaos Supreme Realm, so they quickly noticed that the situation was unusual. Of course, none of this was important to them. The Heavenly Tao needed their help to resolve this situation, while they needed to use the Heavenly Tao to break through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. This could be considered to be a mutually beneficial alliance. If they succeeded in breaking through, it was only right for them to protect the Heavenly Tao. However, how could they break through? No matter what, the four of them had no other path to take. The only way was to use the Heavenly Tao to break through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. This was the first feasible opportunity that they had encountered in countless years. For now, they had to restrain themselves and pretend that nothing had happened, lest they attract the attention of the Chaos Supreme Realm experts. The three ancestors looked at those four, deep in thought. The four of them had to have noticed something, and it was likely related to the fact that the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm was blocked. After Chuping Fan, Demon Buddha made his appearance. His white monk robes were like snow, untainted by even a speck of dust, and shining with Buddhist light. He had an otherworldly temperament. His eyes were kind, and he had a smile on his face, giving people a feeling of a refreshing spring breeze. However, he also exuded a sense of solemnity and restraint. As soon as Demon Buddha appeared, he attracted the attention of all of the experts present. A Buddhist genius, this person was much stronger than Arhat Mo too. Moreover, he was very young. His temperament was especially extraordinary. Furthermore, one could tell at a glance that he was a compassionate and kind person, as well as a person of great merit. It formed a sharp contrast with the tyranny and overbearing nature of the demon race. P alpha PD alpha nu e iota som. Many people could not help but glance at the demon ancestor. No matter how one looked at it, the Buddhist sect and the demon race seemed to be mortal enemies. Moreover, could this Buddhist genius be a mixed-blood demon from the 9 zones as well? If that was the case, it would be really interesting. Demon Buddha put his hands together. I'm Demon Buddha, and would like to have a chat with the demon ancestor. Not a battle, but a chat. The demon ancestor chuckled and said, interesting. Demon Buddha, a Buddhist demon. He sent an avatar to the Heavenly Tao arena. He looked at Demon Buddha, and said with a smile, in the past, if I saw someone like you, I would have killed you the moment I laid eyes on you. In the past, he hated this kind of people the most. Back then, the immortal ancestor had a carefree temperament, which he hated. As such, he had tried to kill him before. This was how the grudges between the immortal race and demon race came about. Now that his cultivation had reached an extremely high level in terms of his demon Tao principle, he had almost reached the state he had envisioned. Toward people like Demon Buddha, he no longer had the desire to brutally kill them. Instead, he was calm. It was the same whenever he saw the immortal ancestor. He no longer wanted to fight him. In the past, when I saw a demon like the demon ancestor, my first thought was to kill and suppress him. Demon Buddha maintained his smile. Now, I think that even demons can be edified. The demon ancestor raised his brows. I wonder if the demon ancestor is interested in Buddhism, Demon Buddha continued. I'm a little interested. The demon ancestor wanted to see what Demon Buddha was up to. Since the demon ancestor is interested in Buddhism, why don't you convert to Buddhism? How do I convert? What are the conditions? Demon Buddha sat cross-legged in the air. Buddhist light surrounded him, and a lotus platform condensed under him. If I wash away your sins and remove your demonic thoughts, you can naturally convert to Buddhism. The demon ancestor looked at Demon Buddha deeply and said, how are you going to wash away my sins and get rid of my demonic thoughts? I'll use the Dharma. Demon Buddha sat on the lotus platform with a kind face and pure white monk robe. He put his hands together and began to recite Buddhist scriptures. The demon ancestor did not make a move, nor did he stop him. Instead, he listened quietly. Gradually, his gaze focused as he sensed the sound of chanting that seemed to speak straight into his soul, trying to convert him. It surged into his Tao path, seeking to make him acknowledge Buddhism and be devoted to it. What a strange and powerful technique. The demon ancestor's body then began to surge with demonic power. It was not by his own initiative, but as the chanting continued, a natural form of resistance appeared. In the eyes of the demon ancestor, this was an incredible matter. Simply chanting Buddhist scriptures could actually trigger an involuntary defensive response. The demon ancestor still did not move. He allowed the chanting to linger around him, and even tried to listen to it attentively. After an unknown period of time, he seemed to be entranced by the chanting, which sent his demonic power into disarray. A bit of Buddhist light was faintly visible around him, as if a wisp of Buddhist light was about to be born within his body. It was in conflict with the demonic power. All of a sudden, the demonic power on the demon ancestor's body surged. The group of experts were all amazed. Why did the demon ancestor look like he was losing control? Was his avatar going to be defeated? The demon ancestor's true body looked on silently, not saying a word. Within the heavenly Tao arena, Buddhist light shone brightly, and the sound of scripture chanting continued. Demon Buddha looked even more solemn. The demonic power within the demon ancestor's body became more and more violent. He seemed to have fallen into some kind of strange state. At a certain moment, a faint Buddhist light actually appeared within the violent demonic power. It almost seemed to be suppressing the violent demonic power and trying to turn it into Buddhist light. The spectators knew that the battle between the two sides had already begun. The war between Buddhists and the demon race. At the moment, it seemed like the demon ancestor was at a disadvantage. However, from the beginning to the end, the demon ancestor had not made a move and appeared to be passively accepting it. When a third of the demonic power within his body had turned into Buddhist light, he suddenly opened his eyes. Buddhist techniques do have a certain level of restraint against the demon race. He looked at Demon Buddha and sighed. However, just like fire and water, demons can also restrain Buddhists. Focusing on a singular path, of either Buddhism or demonism. I'm starting to understand. In an instant, the Buddhist light within the demon ancestor's body disappeared. At this moment, he seemed to have undergone a change. It was as if he had gained a deeper level of enlightenment from that battle. Your Dharma can dispel demonic power, but my demonic power can also turn Buddhists into demons. The demon ancestor looked at Demon Buddha. As soon as he finished speaking, demonic light appeared around the body of the demon ancestor. Demonic sounds rang out, arousing the evil thoughts in the depths of people's hearts. It could amplify all kinds of emotions. It made the greedy more greedy, the evil more vicious, and the angry lose their minds. For a moment, the demonic and Buddhist sounds mixed and clashed with each other. One sought to turn demons into Buddhists, while the other sought to turn Buddhists into demons. The true battle between Demon Buddha and the demon ancestor began. This contest tested each other's faiths. Whoever had their faith shaken would be the one to lose. The demon ancestor was the founder of Demon Tao principle, and had always been pursuing the ultimate demonic state. Demon Buddha was the mighty supreme Buddha of the Buddhist sect. Other than Chuzan, he was the true leader and pillar of Buddhism. This was a battle between the Buddhism Tao principle and the Demon Tao principle. Motu's expression became serious as he stared at the arena without blinking. This battle was of great importance. Demon Buddha could lose to the demon ancestor in terms of strength, but he could not lose to the Demon Tao principle. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the Buddhist sect to resist the demons. Unless the legendary Buddha came out to save them. Buddha Nanwu looked on with a serious expression. He was the #1 Buddha of the 9 zones and possessed great fate. His Buddhism Dharma was just as profound. In terms of status, he was second only to Demon Buddha. In terms of Buddhism, he was actually no weaker than Demon Buddha, and traversed his own path of Buddhism. However, if Demon Buddha lost, Buddha Nanwu knew that he would fare no better. The chanting was weakening, the demonic sounds were fading. In the end, the chanting stopped, and the demonic sounds disappeared. No one won or lost. The demon ancestor looked at Demon Buddha with a solemn gaze. Despite their cultivation gap, he had failed to shake Demon Buddha's faith. This meant that Demon Buddha's faith in Buddhism was extremely firm, and also proved that Buddhism was a great enemy of the demon race. Amitabha. Demon Buddha's expression was extremely cautious. He was wary of the demon ancestor demonic power. He knew that both Motu and Buddha Nanwu would not have been able to remain as firm and would have been converted by the demonic sounds. As expected of the demon ancestor. Let me test the strength of the mighty Buddha. The demon ancestor raised his hand and threw a punch. His demonic power surged and turned into a terrifying monster that seemed to devour everything. Demon Buddha also unleashed a palm strike. The golden lotus bloomed and wrapped itself around the terrifying monster. The battle had erupted into a test of strength. The demon ancestor displayed his might. Demonic power and killing intent filled the sky, and a brutal aura swept through the surroundings. He seemed to have transformed. Demonic state. Demon Buddha's clothes were as white as snow, and he was shrouded in Buddhist light. Within his kind-looking eyes, he also displayed the aura of a furious Vajra. 9-level demon prison. The demon ancestor snorted coldly. Within the demonic power, layers of terrifying images appeared. Wails, shrieks, and cries of pain rang out from within the demonic power. It was like hell on earth, and sounded like the shrieks of countless vengeful souls. Demon Buddha let out a furious roar, and the white monk robes on his body instantly exploded with Buddhist light. Mighty heavenly dragon, a giant dragon with earth-shattering might arose from behind him. With a roar, it charged toward the 9-level demon prison. At this moment, Demon Buddha seemed to have entered some sort of demonic state. However, it was different from the demonic state of the demon ancestor. His demonic state was solemn and divine. Long Ao was dumbfounded. What kind of secret technique was this? Why was there a dragon? Although it was not a true dragon, it had the power of a dragon. Furthermore, there was something noble and holy about it. Demon Buddha rode the dragon and rose up, with a Buddhist saber in his hand. At this moment, the demon ancestor also revealed his demonic form, with various manifestations behind him representing different extreme emotions. However, the gap in strength was too big, so after a short battle, Demon Buddha was defeated. "I will challenge you again," Demon Buddha said solemnly. "Feel free," the demon ancestor laughed coldly. Although he had won this battle, this was the first time he truly encountered Buddhism. Even though the Buddhist sect was too weak at the moment, he knew that it had great potential, and would definitely become a powerful force eventually. That being said, it was not a bad thing for demons to have great enemies. Regardless of which side was trying to convert or kill the other side, the competition between the two enemies would lead to a cycle of constant improvement. The bolt of the heavenly Tao's fate energy entered his body, and he turned silent as a vague image of a vast demon Tao principle entered his mind. His avatar left the heavenly Tao arena and returned to his true body's side. Unlike the other experts, the demon ancestor immediately merged the avatar with his true body. It seemed that he was not afraid of potential problems arising. Seeing the demon ancestor do this, ancient god Star Shaker and the others glanced at him questioningly. "How is it? Did anything unusual happen?" They all wanted to know what would happen if they merged their avatars with their true bodies. "It's just additional fate energy," the demon ancestor said calmly. He did not say much. As for the changes, it was nothing more than having a connection with the heavenly Tao. For the time being, this did not have any effect on him. As for whether or not it would affect the heavenly Tao, he had no idea. In any case, was there anything to fear at their level? Why were they being so conservative? The demon ancestor somewhat despised ancient god Star Shaker and the others. Chuzan looked at an island in the ocean of the divine world. This island housed the remnants of the former demon race. There were not many people, probably around a few hundred. The great elder of the demon race was now the leader of the demon race, and had reached the 30th level of the Tao realm. This speed of improvement could be considered rapid, which was related to him becoming the leader of the demon race remnants and enjoying the blessing of the heavenly Tao's fate. As the demon ancestor's avatar merged with his true body, he formed a connection with the heavenly Tao. The laws of the heavenly Tao that belonged to the demon Tao principle immediately changed. The heavenly Tao had also improved slightly because of the demon ancestor. It was also at this moment that the demon race remnants suddenly found their footing and foundation in the heavenly Tao, and they were filled with demonic power and blessed by the heavenly Tao. Comprehending the demon Tao principle became easier, and they started to become stronger rapidly. The leader of the demon race even broke through 2 levels in a row, and was overjoyed. In that instant, he felt the difference. He immediately knelt on the ground. The demon ancestor has appeared. Demon ancestor, please accept the worship of your descendants. As he knelt down to pay his respects to the demon ancestor, the rest of the demons knelt on the ground. They could also see an illusory image of the demon ancestor, which the leader carved into his mind. Just looking at the illusory image made them feel blessed. He then shouted, "From today on, there will be no demon race, only demonic path cultivators. All living beings can enter the demonic path. I am the leader of the demonic path. Follow me and pay respects to the demon ancestor." Once again, he led the participating members of the demon race to prostrate themselves before the demon ancestor's illusory image. Chuzan looked on silently. He did not stop them. The demonic path had appeared. Since the Buddhism and Ghost Tao principles existed, how could there be no demon Tao principle? It was something that should exist in the natural order of the world, since cultivators could be possessed by demons, causing them to be bloodthirsty and lose their minds. Those who fell into the demonic path would become demons in a sense. The heavenly Tao was becoming more and more perfect and powerful. The demon ancestor was currently comprehending the fate energy of the heavenly Tao when he suddenly sensed something. He looked in the direction of the divine world. It was as if something had touched him. It came from the heavenly Tao. The demonic path. The immortal ancestor frowned slightly. At that moment, he had noticed that something special had happened. It was as if the demon ancestor's demon Tao principle had been improved, and his strength had increased again. He glanced at the celestial ancestor. Among the three of them, the celestial ancestor was the weakest. Even though the gap between them was not huge, it was still apparent. The celestial ancestor had fallen behind them because he had not made any progress and had wavered. He looked at the divine world and fell into a state of deep thought. After Demon Buddha, Heiyu made her appearance. She was the strongest of Chu Zan's disciples, excluding Chu Yi, who was special. Chu Zan was full of anticipation. Would she be able to pull off a victory like Ding Yu? There was no emotion on Heiyu's face, and she looked cold and indifferent. She did not appear particularly strong either. However, she had reached the 150,000-mile mark. Another human genius. Furthermore, this woman was actually the most powerful of them all. For some reason, this woman seemed to have a special kind of fate. The cultivators of the 9 zones all sighed inwardly. The human race was really going to rise up. They made a decision in their hearts to send their juniors to the divine world. Only by doing so could they stabilize the situation and control the growth of the human race. This way, they would not be left too far behind. An avatar of an ancient chaos god descended upon the heavenly Tao arena. In an instant, many identical figures appeared, and it was impossible to tell which figure was the real one. It was also possible that all the figures were the real ones. What was even more terrifying was that the attacks that each figure displayed were different. Ancient God Thousand Shadows. He was an extremely powerful ancient chaos god that was extremely difficult to deal with. It split into multiple figures, each of which had the same strength. Even though each figure was slightly weaker than the avatar's true form, there were many of them, and they were well coordinated. Their attack methods were all different. As such, his combat strength was much higher than his cultivation level suggested. An invisible domain formed by the power of the laws appeared around Heiyu. Her Tao path was very special, and she could command the power of the laws. Her domain swept out, enveloping the entirety of the heavenly Tao arena, sealing ancient God Thousand Shadows within it. The domain was capable of both attacking and defending. Ancient God Thousand Shadows was confused. Why was this person's strength so unusual? The power of her Tao path seemed so faint, yet it was obviously special. Could it be that the other party had comprehended some sort of Tao path secret technique? Boom, lightning, fire, ice, wind, and earth. All sorts of attacks burst out and swept toward Heiyu, who simply waved her hands and condensed identical attacks using the power of the laws, targeting each figure. All of a sudden, the arena was filled with colorful and complicated attacks. Heiyu was constantly condensing different attacks using the power of the laws, as she defended herself against ancient God Thousand Shadows attacks. At the same time, the domain around her began to shrink slowly. At the same time, she was observing every single one of ancient God Thousand Shadows figures, searching for their weaknesses and ways to counter them. Ancient God Thousand Shadows frowned. As the two of them fought, he became increasingly certain that the power displayed by Heiyu was not quite right. Although there were traces of the power of her Tao path, it seemed to be infused with the power of the laws. It was as if the laws obeyed her will. When his attacks encountered her power, it was reduced to nothingness, and he would often experience counterattacks. Or, he would often have his own attacks from different figures collide with each other. She had only reached the 150,000-mile mark, and had not reached the World Creator realm. She was not supposed to be able to do this. Even those who had transcended the World Creator realm would not be able to do something like this against an opponent of equal strength. Was it some kind of powerful Tao path secret technique? This was what he was inclined to believe. Even the other experts were watching her closely now after noticing how unique her power was. They all believed that she was using a very powerful Tao path secret technique. If she had created something like this herself, her level of talent was beyond imagination. With this Tao path secret technique, she should be almost invincible among her peers, right? Ancient God Thousand Shadows continued to unleash all sorts of powerful attacks. In the end, he even used some powerful secret techniques. However, even though Heiyu was forced to start dodging and looked a little pressured, he still could not win. His heart trembled. This woman was too strong. She was absolutely invincible within the same realm. Even with his combat experience and arsenal of secret techniques, he could not win. What kind of Dao Path secret technique was she using? Moreover, how could it last so long? The battle continued, and Heiyu gradually adapted to ancient God Thousand Shadows fighting style, and even found his weakness, or at least the weakness of his avatar. His true body probably did not share the same limitations. Boom. This battle lasted for 15 minutes, which was the longest so far. Ancient God Thousand Shadows was also the only ancient chaos god who had been unable to win within a short period of time even after going all out. Chuzan was pleased. As expected, Heiyu did not disappoint him. This was her first battle, yet she was holding her own easily. The battle reached the point when ancient God Thousand Shadows' avatar had already used up a significant amount of spiritual power. His strength declined accordingly. Heiyu had also consumed a lot of energy, but it was obvious that she could still go on. Chuzan could see that ancient God Thousand Shadows was about to lose. Even if he used a powerful move, it would not change the outcome. Heiyu was actually waiting for him to use his ultimate move. Within the heavenly Dao arena, thousands of shadows appeared, and the power of his Dao path emerged. Countless attacks were unleashed in a flurry, each one containing terrifying power. Each figure seemed to have its own independent Dao path. Heiyu's expression was calm. She waved her hands and the power of the laws condensed, trapping ancient chaos Thousand Shadows within her domain. Ancient God Thousand Shadows had a cold expression. He felt that he was somewhat embarrassing the ancient chaos gods. The Thousand Shadows overlapped with one another, and a terrifying power erupted. Distorted shockwaves rippled between the Thousand Shadows. Heiyu was surrounded by the Thousand Shadows, and an endless stream of attacks were hurled in her direction. At this moment, she had nowhere to hide or dodge. She could only defend with all her might. However, would she be able to block such a terrifying attack? This was equivalent to one person facing the siege of 1,000 experts who were slightly weaker than herself. Moreover, they attacked at the same time with different attacks. Ancient God Thousand Shadows did not believe that Heiyu could block this attack, which he had once used to kill a powerful enemy who was stronger than him. This woman is extraordinary, Ancient God Star Shaker said. Indeed, Ancient God Violent Blizzard nodded. The rest of the experts agreed. To be able to force Ancient God Thousand Shadows to use this attack was a testament to her strength. Even they would be forced to dodge or use a trump card when faced with this attack. Among the experts present, perhaps only Giant Chaos God and the other two would be able to achieve a feat like that. The monster ancestor kept a low profile and did not reveal his true strength. Hence, the other ancient chaos gods did not know that his strength was on par with those three. Even the three ancestors only believed that the monster ancestor was stronger than themselves, but not to the extent as being as strong as Giant Chaos God and the other two. As such, everyone believed that Heiyu would be defeated by this attack. However, Chuzan knew that Ancient God Thousand Shadows was about to lose. Heiyu had actually been waiting for this opportunity. Out of the blue, it was as if the power of the laws had descended upon all of Ancient God Thousand Shadows figures, forming a net that encapsulated them. The moment the net touched their bodies, the figures suddenly vanished, all of them returning to the main body. All of the attacks that had been unleashed vanished as well, and had their source of power changed to the main body. As a result, the powers went out of control, and even the avatar's Dao path trembled and shook. In a battle between experts, even a moment of loss of control could be fatal. What? Ancient God Thousand Shadows was stunned. Interference through the power of the laws. It seemed that within the range of this interference, the laws had been changed so that no one was able to create a clone or use similar techniques. Where did such power come from? The heavenly Dao laws. Had the heavenly Dao laws interfered because his attack would have caused a fatal injury to Heiyu? No, that was not it. Those were not the laws of the heavenly Dao. That was Heiyu's power. It was her Dao path. Why did her Dao path possess the ability to do this? Before he could come back to his senses, a flash of light appeared, and the power of the laws turned into sharp blades that pierced his avatar. Heiyu panted. Forcefully using the power of the laws to interfere with Ancient God Thousand Shadows' Dao path had taken a great toll on her. Furthermore, she had suffered some backlash from this and was injured. However, it was worth it, as she was able to seize this opportunity to defeat Ancient God Thousand Shadows. I was actually defeated. Ancient God Thousand Shadows looked at Heiyu incredulously. This woman was definitely a monster. If her strength was on par with his true body, even he would not be able to defeat her. In fact, there was probably no one here who was a match for her, other than those three. Her Tao path was too powerful and too terrifying. Ancient God Thousand Shadows' avatar vanished, and was absorbed by the heavenly Tao, including the avatar's fate energy. Many experts in the chaos were stunned. They could not understand what had happened. Why had Ancient God Thousand Shadows suddenly lost? Why had his powerful attack suddenly fizzled out like that? What was going on? The heavenly Tao arena was formed by the heavenly Tao laws. The experts could see the battle and even sense the auras and strengths of the challengers. However, there were some deeper things that could not be detected, as they were blocked by the heavenly Tao laws. Thus, none of the experts understood how Ancient God Thousand Shadows had been defeated at such a crucial moment. Did he admit defeat on purpose? Was there any other explanation for why all of his clones had disappeared in his sudden defeat? Heiyu's victory was within Chuzan's expectations. She was also the first disciple, apart from Ding Yu, to defeat an avatar of an ancient chaos god in a head-on battle. Chuzan knew that due to her unique nature, as long as she continued to cultivate diligently, she would eventually reach the Chaos Supreme Realm. Even though the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm had been blocked by a certain fellow, it could not stop her, as her innate divine soul had been formed from the supreme laws. Once her innate divine soul matured, she would easily be able to break through. Among his disciples, only Chu-yi, the reborn Lord of Chaos, could be compared to Heiyu. Chuzan initially had his suspicions that the main purpose of the person who blocked the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm was to stop the Lord of Chaos from breaking through. In Chu-yi's previous life, he was an expert who had almost transcended the chaos. Even though he had failed and died, he had been reborn. However, how could he not have prepared a backup plan? It should be impossible to stop Chu-yi from breaking through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. Therefore, that person's goal was likely to reduce the number of Chaos Supreme experts and retain a larger portion of the authority over the chaos. You remained in your courtyard, but managed to nurture Heiyu, an outstanding disciple who defeated the avatar of an ancient chaos god. You have been rewarded with 100 years' worth of Chaos Supreme cultivation. After Heiyu defeated Ancient God Thousand Shadows, the system's reward naturally arrived. After receiving the reward, Chuzan's strength increased again. However, without a specific cultivation method to transcend the chaos, the path to transcend the chaos was still too far away. This made him even more eager to see what the 100-year milestone reward would be. Thousand Shadows, why did you lose? What happened? Ancient God Star Shaker could not help but ask. That's not for you to know, Ancient God Thousand Shadows coldly replied. Why was he defeated? It was simply because he was not as strong as Heiyu, but he would never admit that. There was no need for that. Ancient God Star Shaker did not probe further, and simply assumed that Ancient God Thousand Shadows had intentionally lost. He probably had some other plans. After Heiyu won, Ding Yu stepped up again and challenged Ancient God Qinghong, who promptly descended with another avatar. He obviously wanted to make up for his last loss. This time, he would not be careless. Moreover, the fate energy of the heavenly Tao was clearly somewhat special, and he was itching to figure out the reason behind it. He did not waste any time and immediately went all out. Ding Yu did not back down. After his last battle with Ancient God Qinghong, he had absorbed and digested the gains from that, and his strength had improved. He became more skilled and steady in the battle. This time, he did not use the Boundless Destruction Sword. Instead, he was trying to come up with his own Tao Path secret technique in the battle. Even if he created his own Tao Path secret technique, and its power was inferior to the Boundless Destruction Sword, it would still be something he comprehended and created personally, so he would obtain many insights from the process. Moreover, as something he personally created, he could still improve and strengthen the Tao Path secret technique over time. The battle this time was unusually intense. What? Quote. Ancient God Qinghong was shaken. Ding Yu's attack techniques, battle experience, and adaptability had all improved greatly. He even had a premonition that with a few more battles, this human genius would probably be able to surpass the combat ability of his avatar. This guy's talent was extraordinary, and he was a true monster. Of course, whether or not he would ever reach that stage remained unknown. In the history of the chaos, there was no lack of geniuses who had perished before reaching their full potential. Sometimes, certain bottlenecks prevented them from breaking through to the next level as well, and they were surpassed by those considered weaker than them before. In the end, Ding Yu was defeated this time. That being said, although Ancient God Qinghong had won, it had not been easy. Wang Luo took Ding Yu's place, and another avatar of a different ancient chaos god descended. From the ensuing battle, it was obvious that Wang Luo had grown stronger as well. As the battles continued, from the Heavenly Tao's side, the geniuses who participated kept growing stronger, which made the expressions of the experts from the chaos turn grave. They now realized how special and extraordinary the Heavenly Tao was, and that it definitely contained great opportunities and fortunes. A month later, all of Chu Zan's disciples had fought at least twice. He Yu did not win her second battle, as her opponent had been ancient god Void Slash, who was one of the 3 ancient chaos gods who was on the verge of breaking through to the chaos supreme realm. Ancient god Void Slash looked at He Yu with eyes filled with admiration. He even thought of taking her in as a disciple. After learning that He Yu already had a master and had declined his good intentions, he looked a little regretful. However, he did not force the matter. 695 More Battles Part 2. Then, it was time for Ding Yu's third battle. This time, his opponent was Ancient God Thousand Wood. After a fierce battle, Ancient God Thousand Wood's avatar suffered significant injuries before finally being able to defeat Ding Yu. Although Ding Yu had lost, he was overjoyed. Exclamation mark! He had managed to create his own Dao Path secret technique. Xiao Liang's opponent was now Ancient God Qing Hong, who also suffered severe injuries before being able to defeat Xiao Liang. After this round of battles, the experts from the chaos were solemn and somewhat stunned. These geniuses were improving too quickly. Many of their avatars were barely eking out victories. When they looked at these geniuses, it was almost as if they could envision the future strongest experts of the chaos. The talent and strength that he had displayed today were 30% stronger than what they had been. Chu Pingfan took to the arena. His opponent was the celestial ancestor, whose divine might seemed to be able to shatter the world, awe-inspiring and unstoppable. Chu Pingfan went all out, but he was still defeated, but he injured the celestial ancestor's avatar in the process. The battles continued, and the avatars of the experts from the chaos gathered more and more of the Heavenly Tao's fate energy. They now all had plans to place an avatar within the divine world, which would serve as a backup plan if something ever happened to their true bodies. Even the demon ancestor thought the same, and did not merge his avatar with his true body again after his second victory. Chu Zan looked on silently. He was satisfied with the growth of his disciples. In particular, they had already comprehended their own Dao Path secret skill. Even if those Dao Path secret techniques that they had just comprehended could not compare to the ones he had taught them, it was still growth in a different manner and would continuously strengthen their comprehension abilities. They might even be able to use these Dao Path secret techniques as a foundation to comprehend and create more of them. He believed that in the next round of battles, his disciples would begin to win. When his disciples began to win, it would also be the time for his strength to rapidly increase again. He raised his head and looked toward where the supreme laws of the chaos were. The fluctuations there had already weakened. The outcome of the competition between the Chaos Supreme Realm experts was about to be decided. Soon, one of them would descend. Regardless of whether it was to seize the Heavenly Tao or for other purposes, conflict was inevitable. Demon Buddha appeared and challenged the demon ancestor again. The demon ancestor muttered to himself for a moment before sending out another avatar to fight. All of the experts were stunned. The demon ancestor had chosen not to send out the avatar he had used in the second battle and had condensed a new one for this battle. Was he not confident? Was he afraid that he would lose the Heavenly Tao's fate energy that the other clone had obtained? Within the Heavenly Tao arena, the demonic and Buddhist powers clashed again, and the battle between the two was unusually intense. In the end, both sides suffered. Demon Ancestor did not win. Demon Buddha did not win either. After both sides suffered heavy losses, the Demon Ancestor's avatar dispersed and was devoured by the Heavenly Tao. Would Demon Buddha be able to defeat the Demon Ancestor in his next challenge? This speed of improvement was too fast. Were the geniuses of the Heavenly Tao the terrifying? He Yu's opponent this round was the Monster Ancestor, who was no weaker than Giant Chaos God and the other two. After an intense battle, the Monster Ancestor won. Then it was Hong Yuanchu's turn again. This time, he persevered a little longer. His strength improved by quite a bit. Another round of challenges began. Ding Yu stepped up, standing proudly on the fighting ring. Who wants to fight me? Ancient God Qing Hong had no intention of taking up the challenge. He knew that his chances of winning this time were not high. One of the ancient gods of chaos sent a brand new avatar to prevent the loss of the Heavenly Tao's fate energy his earlier avatar had obtained. The battle ended very quickly. Ding Yu's first move was a fatal move. He unleashed a total of 3 sword strikes, and then used the Boundless Destruction Sword to defeat that ancient Chaos God's avatar. The battle ended very quickly, but Ding Yu had consumed a lot of his spiritual power. This was his new strategy, which was to go all in as soon as possible. If the enemy did not die, then he would lose. His sword Dao left no room for retreat. The advantage of this fighting style was that it allowed him to unleash incredible amounts of power within a short span of time. Its weakness was that it consumed too much spiritual power, and that it was really only viable in one-on-one or fights against small numbers of enemies. He was truly advancing forward without leaving any way out. Your disciple, Ding Yu, defeated the avatar of an ancient chaos god. You have been rewarded with 100 years worth of Chaos Supreme Realm cultivation. Ding Yu won for the second time, but still triggered the system's reward. Chu Zan was overjoyed that there seemed to be no limit to the rewards. If every one of his disciples continued to challenge and win, his strength would increase continuously. However, things were not that simple. There was probably an upper limit to the number of times the system could reward him. In this round of battle, Ding Yu, Xiao Liang, and He Yu won. Another round of battles began. This time, Ding Yu faced Ancient God Void Destruction and was defeated. Xiao Liang challenged Giant Chaos God and was also defeated. Chu Pingfan defeated Ancient God Violent Blizzard, and He Yu defeated the Celestial Ancestor. This round, Chu Zan received 2 system rewards. As for He Yu, she had already triggered the system reward 3 times. Chu Zan's intuition told him that the system reward would not be triggered for the 4th time. Sure enough, in the next round of battle, He Yu won again, but he received nothing from the system. Each disciple could only trigger the system's reward 3 times. Ding Yu and Xiao Liang won again, making it their 3rd victories. At this moment, Ding Yu, Xiao Liang, and He Yu no longer planned to continue challenging the experts from the chaos. They had accumulated enough combat experience. Even if they continued to challenge, they would not be able to improve much. Next, they had to cultivate and continue to extend and expand their Dao paths. Wang Luo finally won. From the results of his disciples' challenges, it could be seen that Ding Yu, Xiao Liang, He Yu, and Chu Pingfan were more talented in terms of combat. Wang Luo was skilled in alchemy, but his combat ability was slightly lacking. Shang Xing was the same. In terms of combat ability, Qianming was actually slightly stronger than the two. Round after round of battles continued. The experts were silent and solemn. Most of them were no longer able to obtain the heavenly Dao's fate energy, as they could no longer win. As such, the weaker experts no longer volunteered to fight, except if one person showed up. Kingslayer. This guy was indeed worthy of cultivating the Dao of slaughter. Continuous challenges and continuous battles. Even if he was defeated again and again, he would never get tired of it. Among all of the people present, he was the one who had fought the most. He was never discouraged. The weaker experts felt comforted and sad at the same time. Could it be that, in the end, they could only accumulate the heavenly Dao's fate energy from this person? Round after round of battle continued. In the end, Wang Luo, Shang Xing, and the others won 3 times each. Gradually, they stopped challenging the experts. Instead, they digested what they had obtained, and started to immerse themselves in cultivation. The sparring competition seemed like it would soon come to an end. Kingslayer appeared once more within the arena. Chu Zan now saw him in a new light. He was defeated again and again, yet challenged again and again. He never gave up. He was never disheartened. He always maintained his fighting spirit. Even though his talent was not as good as Ding Yu and the others. However, this willpower and heart was also quite extraordinary. As long as he did not die prematurely, his future achievements would be noteworthy. This extremely thick-skinned fellow who kept calling him master was also a man of great potential. Through this battle, the Kingslayer's progress and improvement was actually very fast. Chu Zan felt that he was about to win. Sure enough, he eventually defeated Ancient God Star Shaker. What? Ancient God Star Shaker was stunned. That particular strike was unexpectedly powerful. Even though Kingslayer was severely injured after that attack, he still won in the end. Following Kingslayer's victory, the competition came to an end. The Heavenly Dao arena dispersed and the Heavenly Dao laws returned to how they were before, albeit stronger. 696 The conclusion of the sparring competition. The Heavenly Dao arena disappeared, and Qin reappeared before everyone. He was expressionless. All of you who have obtained the Heavenly Dao's fate energy can now enter the Heavenly Dao. Whether you can gain any enlightenment and obtain any opportunities will depend on your luck. The avatars of these experts all headed toward the heavenly Tao. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. When they entered, they saw a boundless river formed by the heavenly laws. The heavenly Tao was almost the same as the great Tao back then, but it felt a little more special, and its laws seemed to be more complete. The avatars wandered about in the heavenly Tao, but they were unable to enter the divine world. However, they could still comprehend the heavenly Tao laws. The monster ancestor and the other 3 experts were looking for a method or opportunity to break through. Qin looked at the cultivators of the 9 zones and said, "Those who want to send their juniors to the divine world can do so now." The cultivators of the 9 zones did not hesitate and immediately began to choose candidates from among their descendants. They were all 36th level Tao realm cultivators who possessed superior levels of talent. After entering the world, they would be able to reach the Taoyuan realm very quickly. The divine world is divided into 3 realms, Qin reminded them. If one wants to break through to the Taoyuan realm, they need to transcend the heavenly tribulation. Once they successfully transcend the heavenly tribulation and reach the Taoyuan realm, they will ascend to the heaven realm. If you want to ensure that you have descendants in all of the 3 realms, it's best to arrange for juniors of various cultivation levels. The cultivators of the 9 zones thought it made sense, so they selected other lower level, but talented, juniors to enter the divine world. "Qin, we are from the ancient chaos world. Can you arrange for our juniors to enter?" Chong suddenly asked. He was representing the races of the ancient chaos world. The races of the ancient chaos world were not weak. They too had experts behind them who had transcended the world creator realm. One of them was Giant Chaos God. After all, the giant race was from the ancient chaos world. Qin was silent for a moment. He could not make a decision, but had to wait for the heavenly Tao's instructions, or more specifically, the person behind the heavenly Tao. After a long while, he nodded and said, "Sure." Therefore, the races from the ancient chaos world began to select their elite juniors and sent them to the divine world. "I want to pass down my legacy in the divine world. Is that possible?" The one to speak was ancient god Void Slash. Qin was stunned. After pondering for a while, he roughly understood the other party's intentions. The appearance of the heavenly Tao meant that the chaos was about to change. The future was full of uncertainties. If one left their legacy in the divine world, they would be able to ensure that their legacy would not be lost in the event of any changes. Furthermore, if one prepared some backup plans, in the event that they fell during the changes, they might even be resurrected within the divine world. The moment ancient god Void Slash spoke, the other ancient chaos gods followed suit. Qin did not reply. Instead, he was waiting for the heavenly Tao's message to be transmitted to him. The ancient chaos gods want to leave their legacies in the divine world. Chu Zan muttered to himself. This was a good thing. Even if the other party prepared some backup plans, they would not be able to interfere with the operation of the divine world and heavenly Tao. Moreover, the heavenly Tao would only get stronger and stronger, and in the future, the divine world would definitely become the birthplace of the chaos geniuses. Sure. After a long silence, Qin finally spoke. Following which, the rings of light started to solidify, and figures emerged from them. Every ancient chaos god sent 2 to 3 descendants or disciples, and the most one sent was less than 10. These descendants and disciples would establish sects within the divine world. With a wave of Qin's hand, everyone was sent into the divine world. As the number of people sent in by ancient chaos gods was too small, these sects all formed an alliance and banded together. In this alliance, they were simply divided into different sects. Chu Zan looked at the people that the ancient chaos gods had sent in. There were definitely hidden plans among them, but he ignored them as they were simply pieces that would allow them to be reborn if they fell. It would not pose any threat to the heavenly Tao. There were now more and more races in the world. All sorts of sects and cultivation paths appeared. The heavenly Tao would also become stronger and stronger. The world today was much larger than the 9 zones. As far as the eye could see, there were only a few living beings in the entire world. Many places were barren and unpopulated. Ding Yu and the others returned to their respective residences in the heaven realm and went into seclusion to digest what they had obtained. They continued to open up new paths. After digesting what they had obtained, their next step would be to leave the divine world and venture into the chaos. They were all filled with anticipation and yearning for the boundless chaos. 697 Descent of a Chaos Supreme Realm Expert Part 1. Outside the divine world, the experts from the chaos remained in place as their avatars walked through the heavenly Tao, trying to gain insights and new opportunities. Chu did not leave either. The human race was temporarily out of danger. There were actually experts hurrying over from the chaos, but they were intimidated by the group of ancient chaos gods and did not dare to get close. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. The appearance of the heavenly Tao caused waves in the chaos, and it was still ongoing. Some of the eliminated ancient chaos gods were unwilling, and were coming in person. Of course, they did not get too close either, choosing to stay at the edge of the chaotic region, waiting for the opportunities to appear. Chuzan was not bothered about the situation outside. At this moment, he looked toward the special space where the supreme laws of the chaos were and noticed that the fluctuations had become weaker and weaker. It seemed that a Chaos Supreme Realm expert would descend soon. Furthermore, the 100-year milestone was not far off. If they discovered that he was a new Chaos Supreme Realm expert, they would definitely be alarmed. After all, the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm had been blocked, yet he had managed to break through without a sound, and even created the Heavenly Tao. It would definitely incite them to action, and they would probably want to seize the Heavenly Tao. It was inevitable for them to work together against an unfamiliar Chaos Supreme Realm expert who had suddenly appeared and disrupted the order of the chaos. The supreme laws of the chaos once again appeared indistinctly around Giant Chaos God. He wanted to find a way to break through. However, the supreme laws of the chaos that appeared seemed to be quite vague. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual. The supreme laws of the chaos disappeared, as he raised his head to look at the special space. It was a little different from usual. Could it be that the Chaos Supreme Realm experts were doing something? Were they planning to descend upon the Heavenly Tao? Would the descent of the Chaos Supreme expert be an opportunity? Let's go. Giant Chaos God messaged Ancient God Void / Ancient God Void Destruction, and the monster ancestor. In the end, the road to their breakthrough was blocked. Now that things had come to this, they had to join forces to deal with it. Time passed, and there were only 3 days left until the 100-year milestone. Chuzan discovered that the supreme laws of the chaos had already calmed down. Would a single Chaos Supreme Realm expert descend, or would there be more? Within the supreme primal chaos space, the tall and sturdy figure stood up again and looked around. I will be the first leader of the Heavenly Tao. According to the rules, we will only take turns to be the leader for 100 million years after a billion years have passed. Are there any objections? A Chaos Supreme expert sighed. In a real battle, he would not lose to Ju. However, the other party's comprehension of the supreme laws had surpassed his. This also meant that in the future, he would eventually be surpassed by Ju, who had obtained the final victory. Whether the Chaos Supreme experts who were older than him were truly inferior to Ju or had some kind of tacit understanding with him, only they themselves knew. Ju, you've cut off the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm. I have no objections, but I hope you won't cut off the Heavenly Tao or even the Chaos. Another Chaos Supreme Realm existence spoke. After all, if the chaos expanded and became stronger, the supreme laws would become stronger, and so would they. Of course, there was the possibility that Ju wanted to transcend the chaos, and might cut off the expansion of the chaos and weaken it to reduce the difficulty of transcending. It was not easy to transcend the chaos. Even the two ancient beings were far from transcending the chaos, let alone Ju. He still had a long way to go before he could reach the point where he could think about transcending chaos. His main purpose was to remind Ju that the appearance of the Heavenly Tao meant that some variables, and the development of the Heavenly Tao, could not be stopped. Perhaps the Heavenly Tao was related to transcending the chaos. Would I be so stupid to eliminate something that I am in full control of? Ju replied. The rest of the Chaos Supreme experts no longer spoke. Ju knew his limits and would not act recklessly. Ju then took a step forward. This was the first time he had stepped out of the Supreme Primal Chaos space since he had broken through to the Chaos Supreme Realm. Chuzan silently watched the changes within the Supreme Primal Chaos space. There was less than a day left until the 100-year milestone. At this moment, he sensed a powerful existence had left the Supreme Primal Chaos space and descended into the chaos. At the same time, all those who had transcended the World Creator realm. The ancient chaos gods, in particular, possessed unique fate energy and were particularly sensitive to special changes in the chaos. The moment Ju descended, all of them could vaguely sense that an imposing, unfathomable, and supreme aura had appeared in the chaos. It was as if the supreme laws of the chaos were telling them that a Chaos Supreme Realm expert had descended. Giant Chaos God's expression changed. The ancient door suddenly opened completely and expanded. An incomparably huge body walked out of the door. Chang's expression changed. The old ancestor had personally come. Was he going to attack the heavenly Tao? Ancient God Void / and Ancient God Void Destruction also began to personally descend. The rings of light solidified, and the pawns that supported the existence of the rings of light exploded at this moment. The other party's Tao paths surrounded the rings of light and stabilized them. Following closely behind them were the other ancient chaos gods, who also began to descend in person. The sudden change caused Chu and the other cultivators who had transcended the world creator realm to change their expressions. Could it be that these experts were going to join forces to attack the heavenly Tao? Qin's expression was also extremely grave. The four ancestors of the immortal, celestial, demon, and monster races gathered together. Long Ao also transformed into his human form and stood with the four of them. Huang Long and Yi Yujun's expressions changed, and they suddenly rushed toward the heavenly Tao, entering it. Long Ao and the other experts were stunned. Huang Long and the strange bird could actually enter the heavenly Tao. Giant Chaos God looked at Chang and said, "Leave this place." "Ancestor, what's going on? Don't speak further, just go." Giant Chaos God raised his hand and threw a punch into an empty space within the chaos, and a spatial tunnel appeared. Chang's expression changed. He grabbed Tai and threw him into the spatial tunnel. Tai cursed and disappeared as he was thrown inside. Chang continued to throw the other members of the giant race into the spatial tunnel. The experts from the ancient chaos world also took action and threw all of their clansmen into the tunnel. "Go with them, leave this place." The four ancestors also did the same, and threw all of the races of the 9 zones into it. Yao, Piao and the others were also sent away. "Chu, it's not suitable for you to stay here. You can leave now." The celestial ancestor looked at Chu. "Senior, what happened?" Chu's expression changed. "It's not something you should know," the celestial ancestor said solemnly. Chu Zan's voice then resounded in his mind. "Enter the divine world. Let's go to the divine world." When Chu heard this, he passed the message to the others. Chu looked at them, and without any hesitation, he summoned his world and absorbed Zan, Shuilian, Mei and Sha into it. He then looked at Shi. She remained silent for a moment before entering his world. After absorbing them into his world, Chu's figure moved, and he directly descended toward the heavenly Tao. The celestial ancestor frowned, but did not stop him. After Ji and Chu entered the heavenly Tao, they kept descending and soon arrived at the heaven realm. They did not wander around, nor did they alarm anyone. They just stayed at the place where they had landed and looked up at the world outside. They were able to enter the divine world without being rejected. Chu was surprised, but he did not probe this matter further. Only the group of experts and ancient chaos gods remained outside the world. Some experts who were originally waiting outside the chaotic region had fled. Only a few ancient chaos gods stood there in silence. Somewhere in the chaos, various existences raised their heads. There were also experts who had been dormant for a long time that suddenly awakened. Outside the world, an imposing figure descended. His face could not be seen clearly, but he had an imposing figure and an aura that seemed like it could control everything. A Chaos Supreme Realm expert had descended. The moment Ju descended, his imposing figure shook the hearts of everyone. Even though these experts were considered among the strongest in the chaos below the Chaos Supreme Realm, they still felt as small as ants when confronted with this majestic figure. Ju did not reveal his aura, yet all the experts, including Giant Chaos God and the other 3, felt as if a huge rock was weighing down on their hearts, and they were almost unable to breathe. They were shocked. Was this what the Chaos Supreme Realm was like? The 4 experts felt it especially clearly. While they were shocked, they also felt more powerless and unwilling. Were it not for the fact that the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm was blocked, they too would also be like this person, and they could truly control their own fate. However, how could they break through given the fact that the one who had blocked the path was such a magnificent and powerful existence? In that instant, the 4 experts felt a sense of despair. As Ju descended, the heavenly Tao rippled like waves. An invisible pressure enveloped the heavenly Tao and seeped into the divine world. Even though Ju did not reveal any of his aura, just by descending and looking down at the heavenly Tao, it still caused a commotion. Qin's expression changed drastically. He felt like he was facing a horrific enemy. Feng Ying also grimaced. What kind of terrifying existence was this? Within the divine world, countless living beings felt the pressure descend from the sky. The stronger they were, the stronger the feeling. The Daoyuan realm cultivators were all shocked. Chu Zan stood in the yard and looked up at Ju. He was silent and did not reveal his aura. He was waiting for the 100-year milestone to arrive. The moment Ju descended, Chu Zan knew that it was this Chaos Supreme Realm expert who had blocked the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm. The other party's supreme law could block the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm, as it was the law of extinction, a supreme law that could cut off anything. This was the enemy of Giant Chaos God and the other three. Ju was undoubtedly very powerful, but his strength did not exceed Chu Zan's expectations. It would not be difficult for him to deal with Ju. However, if there were 2 or 3 more Chaos Supreme Realm experts, he would not be able to deal with them with his current strength. It would not cause a life and death crisis. However, it would definitely affect the Heavenly Tao and cause it to suffer heavy losses. It would take many eras for the Heavenly Tao to recover, and its development would definitely come to a halt. The appearance of the Heavenly Tao was a variable in the chaos, so there was no way these Chaos Supreme Realm experts would leave it in the hands of an unfamiliar Chaos Supreme Realm expert. At the very least, they would want to have their share of the pie, and there was no way Chu Zan would agree to that. However, it was not time for him to make a move yet. Chu Zan was waiting for the 100-year milestone to arrive. In the divine world, many unique and special existences were uneasy at this moment. Their intuition told them that a mighty and supreme existence had descended from the heavens. The unknown was a blessing or a curse. In the heaven realm, all of the Daoyuan realm cultivators left their residences and gazed out into the chaos. They felt as if there was an imposing, supreme, and majestic existence looking down on the world. At this moment, they all felt that even the divine world was as small as an ant to that being. In comparison, they were even weaker than ants. In the new world, Chu Yi raised his head and looked at the sky. His eyes were solemn, and there was a hint of disdain. He vaguely knew what was going on, but he was not too sure. All he knew was that, in the depths of his heart, he despised and disdained this kind of thing. Chu Yi was not the Lord of Chaos after all. He did not have the memories and consciousness of the Lord of Chaos. However, even after being reborn, some of the instincts of his past life still remained. Ju did not move, he just observed the heavenly Tao. With a wave of Chu Zan's hand, Chu Yun, Su Shaner and Chu Yi returned to the courtyard. He Yu and the other disciples also rushed back. The moment they returned to the courtyard, that vast pressure instantly disappeared. "Sir, what happened?" Su Shaner could not help but ask. The others looked at Chu Zan curiously. "It's just a small matter," Chu Zan said lightly. Was it really a small matter? Su Shaner was a little worried. Usually, Chu Zan would lie on the chair, leisurely, as if he was watching the days pass by. This was the first time he was standing in the courtyard. Ding Yu and the other disciples were all silent. Since their master said it was a small matter, then it should be a small matter, right? Ju did not enter the heavenly Tao in the divine world immediately. Instead, he observed silently and searched for the origin of the heavenly Tao laws, as well as where the source of the heavenly Tao was. The heavenly Tao had actually appeared soundlessly, and no one had discovered its birth or development. Ju silently investigated this matter. At present, all he could determine was that the birth of the heavenly Tao was inseparable from the great Tao of the 9 zones. However, the real source seemed like it was hidden behind a layer of fog. Even he, a Chaos Supreme Realm expert, was unable to figure it out. Given this, it was evident that the heavenly Tao was unusual. The chaos was silent, and many experts could only look up at this majestic figure. After a long time, Giant Chaos God suddenly bowed and said with a sincere and respectful tone, "Junior greets Senior. It has been a long time since I've reached this level of cultivation. It's my honor to meet Senior today. Please give me some pointers on how I can break through this bottleneck." When Ju looked over, Giant Chaos God felt as if a terrifying mountain had descended upon him. His huge body instantly bent over. Then, he knelt on the ground. A single gaze had actually caused him, an expert who was on the verge of reaching the Chaos Supreme Realm, to be reduced to this state. From this, one could see how huge the gap between them was. In the face of such a terrifying existence, they were no different from ants. Ancient God Void Slayer, Ancient God Void Destruction, and the monster ancestor were both nervous and expectant. How would this supreme chaos expert answer? He couldn't just kill the giant god of chaos, right? The other experts were also extremely nervous, not even daring to breathe loudly. They were looking forward to Ju's answer, but they were also worried that this existence would annihilate them all with a wave of his hand. After a long while, Ju's voice rang out. How can you break through if you don't have enough comprehension? Calm your heart, understand yourself, and search for the true meaning of the chaos. Once you do, you'll make a breakthrough. If you can't comprehend it, then you'll be like this forever. Whether you break through or not, it all depends on yourself. You can't force it. Giant Chaos God was silent. The rest of the experts were silent. The 4 experts, who knew the truth, had almost given up. The other party's words were simply perfunctory. Comprehend the true meaning of the chaos. They had already reached this level, so how could they lack comprehension? The true meaning of the chaos was the supreme laws. If the path was blocked, how could one comprehend it? Thank you for your guidance, Senior. The voice of Giant Chaos God trembled slightly. It was as if he was excited. His heart was filled with despair and anger. However, he did not dare to show it. He did not dare to reveal any clues that might be discovered. Even though his voice was trembling, he still gave off a feeling of excitement. He did not want to die. Perhaps there was still hope within the Heavenly Tao. The descent of a Chaos Supreme Realm expert meant that the Heavenly Tao was unusual. Could it be that there was a way to break through using the Heavenly Tao, and the other party was here to block it? All sorts of thoughts appeared in his mind. Ju acknowledged him with a soft, and looked at Qin with an indifferent expression. Interesting, you actually escaped my power and became the spirit of the Heavenly Tao, cutting off all past karma. You have some skills. As soon as he said this, Qin's expression darkened. You're the backer behind Prison Tao, Ancient God. I guess so. I don't care how you managed to escape this calamity. I'll give you a choice. Become my slave, or die. Ju looked down at him. Qin was a divine being of the Heavenly Tao, and he had the responsibility to maintain the order of the Heavenly Tao. As such, he had some authority within the Heavenly Tao. To control the Heavenly Tao, one had to control the divine beings of the Heavenly Tao, which was also the simplest and gentlest way to control the Heavenly Tao. Ju also wanted to find the origin of the Heavenly Tao through Qin. The fact that Qin had managed to escape with his life indicated how unusual the Heavenly Tao was. If he had not come personally, he would not have known that someone had actually escaped from his hands. I'm a divine being of the Heavenly Tao. There's no way that I will be your slave, Qin sneered. So what if the other party was a Chaos Supreme Realm expert? The only way to kill him was to destroy the Heavenly Tao or extract him from the Heavenly Tao. Qin Mu knew that the Heavenly Tao was not simple, and it would not sit by idly and watch him be destroyed. That's not the answer I wanted to hear, Ju said coldly. He lifted his hand and grabbed Qin. Bang, bang. Qin immediately exploded and disappeared. Ju snorted. As long as the Heavenly Tao was not destroyed, the divine beings of the Heavenly Tao would not die. However, how could the Heavenly Tao stop him? He was a Chaos Supreme Realm expert. He reached out directly into the Heavenly Tao. Since you're not willing to be a slave, then disappear. A giant hand stretched out toward the Heavenly Tao. The power of rejection of the Heavenly Tao emerged, the power of the laws emerged, and lightning struck. However, none of them could shake this hand. Qin's figure appeared within the Heavenly Tao, silently watching the huge hand descend. The ancient Chaos Gods' avatars in the Heavenly Tao were all shaken, and they gathered together to distance themselves from the descending hand. Huang Long's figure appeared. He took a look and then disappeared into the Heavenly Tao. The spirit-devouring flower's branches shook, and it instantly disappeared into the Heavenly Tao. The giant hand was too powerful and terrifying. It had already surpassed the entire Heavenly Tao. This was the Chaos Supreme Realm. Heiyu's figure appeared for a moment, and her heart was greatly shaken. The strength of the person behind this giant hand was beyond her imagination. The Heavenly Tao was already extremely powerful. It was stronger than the ancient Chaos Gods. However, it seemed to be unable to resist the giant hand. This was the legendary Chaos Supreme Realm. The expressions of Ding Yu and the others also changed. They sensed the power and horror of the Chaos Supreme Realm. Ding Yu could not help but clench his fists as he watched the giant hand. Only by becoming such a strong person could he truly control his own fate, right? Chu Zan's voice rang out. This is the Chaos Supreme Realm. I hope that all of you will become Chaos Supreme Realm experts in the future, and even transcend the chaos. Chu Zan's voice was calm. The Heavenly Tao Talisman appeared in his hand. The current Heavenly Tao Talisman was like a miniature world, and it no longer looked like a jade talisman. It was a small world formed by the Heavenly Tao laws. When he pointed with his finger, the power of Heavenly Tao gathered. Qin's figure disappeared. The heavenly Tao laws instantly arose, and the supreme laws were faintly visible, blocking the giant hand that was reaching in. It was not time for him to show himself yet. The 100-year milestone had yet to arrive. Giant Chaos God and the other experts were shocked. The heavenly Tao actually blocked the giant hand that reached in. Ju's gaze turned cold. Supreme power gathered around his giant hand, which kept reaching into the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao is a variable in the chaos. It will bring harm to the chaos and must be controlled. From now on, you are not allowed to approach the heavenly Tao without permission. Your avatars must also leave the heavenly Tao to avoid creating more variables. The expressions of Giant Chaos God and the others changed. The Chaos Supreme Realm expert was actually stopping them from getting close to the heavenly Tao and did not allow their avatars to stay in the heavenly Tao. Could it be that the heavenly Tao really contained the method to break through to the Chaos Supreme Realm? Everyone was silent. Ju did not mind. No one could disobey his will except for other Chaos Supreme Realm experts. The supreme power around his hand continued to intensify. However, the heavenly Tao laws also became stronger, and the supreme laws manifested indistinctly. Ju raised an eyebrow. The heavenly Tao was unexpectedly powerful. It could actually activate the supreme laws when it was attacked. The more it was so, the more he had to control it. He did not directly attack with force, so as not to destroy the heavenly Tao and cause damage to it. Qin was just an insignificant ant, and could be disregarded. For now, everything was still under his control, so he did not need to resort to violent means. A complete heavenly Tao was more valuable. Chu Zan stood in the courtyard, strengthening the heavenly Tao laws and guiding the supreme laws to resist Ju's invasion. He did not display too much power all of a sudden. He wanted to give Ju hope and buy time for the 100-year milestone to arrive. In order to keep things plausible, he had even allowed part of his hand to enter the heavenly Tao. Heiyu and the others were so nervous that they did not even dare to breathe. As time passed, Ju frowned. Vaguely, he felt that something was not right. While he was hesitating, the supreme laws appeared around the huge hand. It suddenly tore a hole in the heavenly Tao. At this moment, a stream of time power flowed in to replace it, freezing his hand to prevent it from moving forward. Ju snorted coldly. He exerted a little force, and the time power exploded and disappeared. Chu Zan was furious. If he didn't have to wait for the 100-year milestone reward, he would have directly attacked and beaten the other party into a pulp. If he continued, he would probably expose himself before the 100-year milestone arrived. This was something Chu Zan did not want to see. Although he had been exposed, he did not leave the small courtyard, and the reward would not disappear. However, the rewards for remaining hidden and being exposed were definitely different. Only by remaining hidden would the reward be more generous. This was what he inferred from his knowledge of the system. He believed that his intuition would not be wrong. Chu Zan looked at the 4 experts as he tried to delay the Ju's invasion. He had to divert Ju's attention. He could not use any more power, or Ju would definitely notice that someone was behind the heavenly Tao. The 4 experts were looking at each other with extremely gloomy expressions. They felt a deep sense of powerlessness and despair, and felt immense hatred and resentment toward the existence that blocked their breakthrough. At this moment, a voice rang in the minds of the 4 experts. Do you want to break through? Do you want to take revenge? The 4 of them were shocked. This voice did not seem to belong to the Chaos Supreme Realm expert who was attacking the heavenly Tao. I want to. The 4 of them responded almost at the same time. At this moment, they looked at each other and confirmed that they had all heard the voice. May I ask how I should address you, Senior? Giant Chaos God asked respectfully. I am the Eternal, Immortal, Almighty, Virtuous, and Supreme Tao Master. Just this name alone made this senior sound extremely powerful. The 4 experts were once again deeply shocked. Senior Almighty Tao Master, the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm has been blocked. How can we break through? The monster ancestor asked. I will break the seal. You just need to seize the opportunity to break through. Senior, why do you want to help us break through? Ancient God Void Slayer asked in a low voice. Did this senior pity the 4 of them? They did not even know each other, so why would this senior pity them for no reason? Since the other party wanted to help them break through, there must be a reason. Of course, no matter what the reason was, it was all fine and they would still be grateful to him. They simply wanted to know the reason. The person in front of you possessed the supreme power of extinction. He's the one who severed the path to the Chaos Supreme Realm. The voice resounded in the minds of the 4 experts. At this moment, Giant Chaos God and the others were all stunned. However, they did not look at the imposing figure. Even if it was just a glance, the other party would easily. The hatred in their hearts boiled. There was no need to doubt the truth of what the voice was saying. After all, there was no need for the other party to lie to them. I need you to break through to divert his attention and buy me some time. At the same time, I also hope that the chaos will continue to grow stronger and not stop here. The four experts understood. Once again, they were shocked. This person was the expert behind the heavenly Tao. I will tell you in advance that breaking through will be dangerous. He will try and stop you. Whether you can succeed or not will depend on your luck and ability. I'll break the seal. The rest is up to you. All you need to do is buy some time. It's your choice whether you want to take the risk and break through. So that was how it was. The four experts looked at each other and made a decision. To have cultivated to this stage, which one of them lacked decisiveness and courage? They had experienced countless life and death situations. If they missed this opportunity, they might not have another chance to break through. Within the danger was also a precious once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Senior, I choose to break through. Whether I live or die, I'm grateful for your help. If I succeed in breaking through, I'll stand beside you unconditionally, Giant Chaos God sincerely said. Ancient God Void Slayer, Ancient God Void Destruction, and the Monster Ancestor were the same. Very good. Are you going to break through together, or will you break through separately? Giant Chaos God sent a message to the other three, let's split up so that he cannot focus on all of us at once. Then, we'll rely on our own luck and skills to break through. I hope that all four of us will succeed. The four of them were in the same situation, and had the same enemy. Furthermore, there was no enmity between them. From this moment on, they were already considered allies. After breaking through to the Chaos Supreme Realm, as newly ascended Chaos Supreme Realm experts, they had to ally together to resist the power of the one who had blocked them. Alright, the four of them instantly split up and left in four different directions. A certain distance away from the heavenly Tao, the three ancestors were all stunned. Don't be too ostentatious, hide. The immortal ancestor's expression changed as he transmitted a message to the celestial ancestor, the demon ancestor, and Long Ao. He immediately moved and disappeared into the chaos, hiding himself. The rest of the ancient chaos gods were also sensitive, and immediately hid in the chaos. Chuzan looked at the huge hand that kept reaching into the heavenly Tao, and a cold gleam flashed across his eyes. The supreme laws in his body suddenly appeared and connected with the 9 supreme laws of the chaos. A supreme power suddenly swept out and tore open a gap in the originally barricaded path to the Chaos Supreme Realm. Ju's hand paused, and his expression froze. The path to the Chaos Supreme Realm that he had blocked had actually been cracked open. Who did it? It was a tacit understanding between the Chaos Supreme Realm experts that the path should remain blocked. Who would break it? Could it be that he had interfered with the heavenly Tao and caused some changes in the supreme laws of the chaos? Within the supreme primal chaos space, the path has been opened. A Chaos Supreme expert asked in bewilderment. Ju, who do you want to break through? The other person's voice was cold. I'm afraid it's an unforeseen event, an old voice rang out. The moment the path was opened, the 4 experts felt their hearts tremble as they instantly sensed and connected to the 9 supreme laws of the chaos.